I see her over there.
Give me just a second. Perfect. Susan wanted to join.
Susan is somewhere fun.
Yeah, Susan is going to join.
Left mine in my car. Butter it.
Are we ready?
A lot of pressure in this job, but this ain't part of it.
Okay. Welcome to the meeting of the Canyons Board of Education. Today is March 31st, 2026, and we're meeting at the district office located at 9361 South, 300 East in Sandy, Utah. The first item on the agenda is item A, the final 2026 legislative update, and this will be by Charlie Evans, Director of External Relations, and Susan Edwards, Public Engagement Coordinator. And we see Susan on Zoom, so.
Thanks. Let me see if I can get you guys back on schedule. Everybody knows Brooke. She had to step in and pinch hit when Emily resigned at the last moment. Did an excellent job for us up at the legislature. I want to thank her. And I don't know if everybody knows Henry, but Henry worked with us during the legislative session. Also did a wonderful job. I've got Sharice here with us today to help answer any questions about gang funding. So feel free to ask any questions you have there. We go over this every year. These are the number of bills that were proposed and passed. The number keeps going up. There's no end in sight. They broke last year's record this year, and they'll break this year's record next year, is my guess. Because we're going to have a crop of new legislators, and of course, the new ones have all the secrets about how to fix the system yet. Yeah. I want to thank everybody, the Canyon staff and board members. We had a lot of board members up there today. We had a lot of people come and testify at probably the most we've ever had come and testify at the legislature this year. And I want to thank everybody who did that, and especially Henry and Susan and Brooke. We had a lot of students up there this year, and it was very crowded at the Capitol this year. And so we had a lot of really, really busy days. And I want to thank everybody who helped participate in that. Now here are the bills. These are the technology bills that passed during this legislative session. Let me just say, just generally, I think I've already said this. This year was the first year since COVID where I kind of felt like things began to get back to pre-COVID normal at the legislature. We actually were able to kill some bills in committee this year, and we saw a lot of bad bills that never really got started, a lot of bad bills that got killed in committee, a lot of bad bills died along the way. And previous 2 or 3 years, we saw just a lot of bad bills just sail right through our legislature. I think we've talked pretty much about the bills that you see here on this slide, but I'm happy to talk further if anybody has any questions.
Are there any specific questions?
Susan, you feel free to jump in here anytime. I do have a question for you. Were you at Arkansas baseball games this weekend when the Gators rolled through there?
I was not.
Okay.
I was not.
Just in case you're wondering, the Gators won all 3 of those.
All
games.
3. I'm aware.
These are some of the these are some of the bills that we were just referring to, and not all of these. Certainly, there are some very good legislators up there who had bills fail. And I don't mean to lump them all in together, but there are certain names that you see repeatedly up there. That is for a good reason. Happy to answer any questions about those.
Yeah, that was fun.
We try to do this every year because there is a feeling, and I'm as subject to it as anybody else. You kill a bill and you think it's dead. These are the bills that that died this year that we do think will come back next year, and any of them could. I do want to point out with all the consternation that we had over the UHS exactly as we predicted. The one bill that UHSA cut a deal on is the only one that passed, and the rest of them failed, just like we suggested they would. At one point, we almost had two people testifying on one of those bills, one on either side of it, so we could avoid that embarrassment. Any questions here?
I think, I'm just quite curious, you know how they wanted to change the election for school board?
Yeah.
Is that a minor blip going through, or do you think that that's a trend? It didn't make sense, because they wanted state school board
Yeah.
to be nonpartisan, and they wanted us to be partisan.
Yeah, I think, modulate, I'd say here in a public meeting, I think having done that with the state board and getting it, and living with that for a few years has chastened them a little bit about doing it at the state level. I don't know how else to say
It didn't make any
that.
sense to us.
We have we always have a great group of legislators up there now, who a lot of whom pitch in and help us in a lot of different ways, not just with voting. And of course, they don't all vote the way we want them to vote all the time, but we do place a premium and a value on having a good relationship with everybody up there, and they do pitch in and help us in a lot of different ways. And we just wanted to acknowledge that here. Wanted to do a couple of really special thank yous to Tracy Miller for fighting hard to get the 17 million back for the school, school fees offset. We almost lost that. I thought it was lost for 10 days. Representative Senator Cullimore on getting us some flexibility with USHE. Many people have tried to change that over the years, and Senator Cullimore was the first person to be able to do it. We owe him a debt of thanks and gratitude. He worked very hard on that, and it is something I think is going to be meaningful and important to us. And Senator Cullimore and Senator Baldry in helping us get an increase for at-risk funding. There are others who deserve thanks. We did want to single those three out for a special thanks for all their help. Each one of those is extremely difficult to do. The board has just gone over most of this stuff as they're preparing for negotiations, as it says on the agenda. And we have gone over most of this stuff in this meeting before, but I did think since we were rounding up the legislative session that I'm happy to answer any questions about this if there are questions.
Any question on that, board? I think you've kept us too well updated, Charlie, through the session, so
That was the plan.
we're aware.
Grateful.
We put together a comprehensive list, or we try to make it comprehensive of all the things that we need that impact us directly and that may need to where we need to change our policies and practices. This is a list of those. I think at this point, the people within the district that need to be aware of these are aware of them. We tried to make them aware of them as they were happening, but I think everybody is aware of those, and happy to answer questions about that if there are any.
Okay, Mrs. Oaks has a question.
I just have a question about HB 188. So when it says that they must report and discipline drug offenses, that's any drug offenses that take place on school property? Or is that anything that we're aware of that law enforcement brings to our attention, or how does that work?
I'll ask Sheree, thanks for
So
that.
the first and second offenses can be interventions like our peer court.
Okay.
The third offense has to be through law enforcement.
Okay.
So that is obviously gonna have some repercussions on our protocols and practices. But yeah, the third offense has to be through law enforcement.
But it is school offenses,
Yes, absolutely.
School offenses, okay.
not on the weekend.
Only on property.
And now it's compulsory, rather before it was optional. I mean, it sounds like there's a little bit of crack that's happened in terms of the juvenile justice.
There's been been a variety, I'll be honest with you, how first offenses have been handled, second offenses, et cetera. But now this laid it out pretty clearly in this bill. So again, we can take it to court, first and second offenses, but the third offense must go through 1 court and G. And they have to be reported too. They're about the data collection, which we data collect anyway, so.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does, and it means that in any other district, if they were to transfer districts, including if they were to transfer to ours, we would be receiving that information.
I can't speak 100%, but I would assume so, yes, that they're disciplined.
That's good.
I mean, their discipline record will come.
That was a different bill that passed
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
Yes, as far as communication goes with another district on discipline, yes, Amanda. That bill allows us to have that conversation.
Katie, did I see your hand?
Mrs. Miller?
Just so first and second, they are required to go through peer court, so we're recording those well, or?
They're not required. The school, can handle a first offense if they want to. We haven't decided our protocol yet for canyons.
We're not
So,
required to do it that way.
yeah, but, pure court is an option for first and second offenses, cause it clearly states can go through an intervention program. But once we get past those second offenses, there are other requirements.
Can I ask one question as a follow-up on that? Based off of what we've had for caseload, how many students would have qualified under that umbrella?
Well, I would honestly, Amanda, I'd have to go through all the school records because people were handling them a little differently. I can tell you that about 66% of our cases last year was THC vaping.
Or what?
THC vaping.
And then third offense,
It will greatly increase our peer court load if people are following through.
This is our legislative report card. Since they don't give us letter grades anymore, we don't give them letter grades anymore. But we probably should have put the report card from last year up to this year because we saw market improvement. I don't think it's because of our report card. I just think it was a little bit of a better legislative session for us. I think leadership has basically ran through the previous years, their big pieces of legislation, which we didn't have to deal with this year. But you can see, and these are kind of hard to come up with because, if a bill dies along the way, then everybody isn't required to vote on it. We try to keep it even so that all the votes that we count here, everybody had to vote on final passage. And so there are some that would have skewed this one way or the other that we didn't feel was fair to include in here, but we did try to include important pieces of legislation that the board cares about and that we felt like we're going to have a major impact. And so I felt once we collected these votes and took note of them, I felt like our delegation did a really good job representing us this year, and I certainly don't have a complaint about either one of them. And I would encourage everyone, especially board members, when you encounter our legislators, to thank them for their representation of us. I think they do a wonderful job on our behalf. We don't always agree with them. We disagree vehemently with some of them often, but we still manage to get along and work closely together up there. And we certainly appreciate all of them.
Mrs. Oaks?
so I agree with you. I mean, I was thrilled when I found out about the right of first refusal changes and what that's going to do for Innovation Center. It's amazing. So I really appreciate, I know you guys have been working on that for a long time. What is the most effective way to thank them? Would it be worthwhile for us, and I'm just thinking of this in part because we're on the legislative committee, but for us to have a card that each of us as board members can sign and send to them collectively, or is it better for us to contact them individually?
It's not a bad idea to do a card. We gave them each a handwritten thank you note at the end of the legislative session, which is our practice. I think the thing that is most effective is if you have a texting relationship with them, just to send them a quick text, thank you.
Well, Mrs. Nymeyer brought up at our last meeting that she wanted us to do something more for them, so I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like I agree with what you said. I think this year was markedly improved from other years in the past, and I would really like to celebrate that. So even if we did a letter or something and some small thing as a thank you.
I think it's a wonderful idea.
Very could we get, communications? Different person maybe to work on that, and then, if you guys don't mind.
And Amber, as soon as I get back mid-April, we're happy to take that on as well, so that we make sure we stay within our limits of what we can do for them.
Oh, good point.
Okay, we'll have Susan do it then. Susan and Charlie, when
No,
you
I'll
guys get back.
They can't accept any gifts from us, but I don't think anybody's proposing that.
I think a letter and something we each signed would be great.
Is it helpful though for like a personal reach out to the ones in our own area to just be, you know, like whoever is in your area to just reach out?
Nothing's gonna have the impact that a personal communication, a text from you to them is going to have, because they will know that that came from you and wasn't generated by your staff.
Okay, that's good feedback.
USBA Day on the Hill, these are just some of the pictures that we took. A lot of you guys are featured in these, and we had a great turnout at the Hill. Like I said, we had a lot of, you guys are up at the Hill a lot, very nice, very helpful, and we appreciate it. We love to have you guys involved. We basically took over the rotunda that day.
It was fun.
It was fun.
We did.
And it's intended to continue. That was
Yeah.
so successful that.
I think that will be an annual event. There's Susan testifying with Senator McKay on that, I forget what we called it, but this, yes. Yeah, that was one we had to work on the whole session, and finally got it done on the last day. So that's it. Any other questions for us?
Any other questions? Well, I just know we're all really grateful for everything you guys have done, your whole team. So thank you for Henry, Susan, Charlie. And we know it's a ton of work. And like, I recently had a conversation, I'm like, the legislative session was great this year compared to the past. And I do think like we had so many bills that were bad, end up getting changed. Anyway, so we just really appreciate everything.
You bet. It's our pleasure. Thank you.
I think the level of communication with everyone, top notch.
It was
awesome.
awesome.
Amazing.
I personally
It
love
was the
that
best.
daily
Job.
update.
I loved your,
I know it was a lot of work, I'm sure.
personally.
Thank you.
You bet. Our pleasure. Thank you.
It was great.
Okay, we're gonna go on to item B, and that's the 2026-2027 Land Trust and TSSP Plan Approval Process. And Alice Meredith, Director of Elementary Principals. Yes, in this discussion.
Thank you, President Schill and Board.
Time of year.
I can't believe it's this time again already. It was
I know.
4 weeks ago, we were looking at final reports. But I did send you an email, I think it was yesterday, just going over all the different requirements. Just as a reminder, with 2 signed plans, that is considered an approved plan for the entire board. And I did include in the email the SEC repository documents. You just have to go to that link. I think as of this afternoon, we had at least 4, maybe a few more plans that have been completed and are already there for you to look at. My only question to the board is if you would like from me on a regular basis just to update you as more plans come available, or do you just want to check on those on your own? What would be best for you?
I could use just a reminder email that I have to shoot out. How my workflow goes is I remember I need to do it. I do the ones that are there, and then it's gone.
Okay. I'm happy to do that, and I can let you know specifically if it's even more helpful, like which of your plans are now ready to be approved or to be looked at. Whatever works best. I'm
That
happy.
is helpful.
Okay, I can
think
do
that's
that
helpful
for you.
all of us.
Sure.
Even if it's just one email with, these are all the.
I'm happy to do that, very happy to do that. So just in the repository, I've included, like I do every year, the CSD MTSS framework, Utah code, appropriate expenditures for land trust.
Which one is
All
I?
the reminders that you
Is
might
this I?
need to approve those plans.
Oh.
So that's
I
really,
guess, okay.
Susan, mute yourself if you can hear us. It looks like it's muted, but we can still hear it.
Oh, I think maybe she just did.
Anyway.
so I didn't have a presentation, but I just wanted to get in front of you and see if there's any questions, and as always, feel free to call me. Happy to answer any questions.
So that email was great with all that information.
Yeah, it was.
and links. That's really helpful because we can refer back to that.
Okay. And I will update you weekly, if not more, when we get more plans.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Okay, next is item C, the Canyons Innovation Center budget review and other updates by Leon Wilcox, Business Administrator. We also have Reed Newey here, the Director, and Sam Soder, Business, what is their title, Business?
Development specialist.
Development Specialist. Perfect, we're gonna remember.
So thank you, President Schill. I'll do the first few slides, and Sam and Reed will go over what their partnership proposal is for that. So you'll see the changing colors on the slides. Let me just say, it was just over 2 years ago now when you first saw the Innovation Center. It was in February of 2024. So it's gone by fast. So lots happened in 2 years, and we're excited to see it open up in about just over a year from now. Those of you who were on the board at the time recall that when we bought the center, we really didn't want to put outside using property taxes to pay the lease revenue bond. We wanted to limit the dollar amount of property taxes going into that. So we said, we knew the catalyst grant was upcoming, and we also knew we could have property to sell. And so that's how we were looking at to finance the renovations inside of it. So just quickly, here's what we're looking at. I'm going to call this available funds. We don't have to use all this at the center, but the property, just quickly, when we sold the bonds in December 2024, we got a $5 million premium. The last line there, the catalyst grant, we did that a couple months ago. Big thanks to Reed and his team for getting that through over the finish line. So both those have to go towards the center under the requirements. But these others are the properties that we sold before they have under contract. Remember, we sold West Draper property and we closed in that in January of 25 because we knew we had enough space at the center to build an elementary school, and it actually made more sense with the proximity of the point. Then we had the park at Midvale City that they bought. Again, didn't make, Midvale, that's where the old Midvale Elementary sat. Didn't make sense to have two elementary schools there, so both didn't think we'd ever need that either. So then they bought it, and they're gonna work with, putting a library there. That closed in last June. We have the CTEC property under contract right now. Again, you approved that a few months ago. We're still working with the contractors working through Sandy City. The buyer, Boyer, worked through Sandy City and getting that approved. They were on site that weekend doing soil samples, if you will, for that. I was hoping to close on that before the end of this fiscal year. It still may happen, but I think that could go into July or August. But still, they're fully committed and moving ahead with that. And then last meeting, the first one here in March, a month ago, we put under contract in the city for the Crescent View property. They seem to be excited and are moving forward, doing due diligence with that. Looking to have that close about a year from now. Again, they had a 9-month due diligence, been 1 month now, and then they had 3 months to close after that. So looking at the end of February 27 to close on that. So add all those up, you get $56.6 million there. Let me just go over bid package 2. Again, we had bid package 1 was the trades building that's underway that you approved in December. Here's number 2. So Hughes, the general contractor, put out bids. They took MHTN's designs, put that out to bid or to the market, if you will. And they had a bid closing on March 19th. They're still finalizing amounts from that. It will probably take them another couple weeks to get that done. But we have a pretty good idea where they're going to end up at. One of the things that happened is they did not get any electrical companies to bid. We expect that cost to be around 6.2 to 6.5. They have since put that back out. They've contacted 4 to 5 companies who have gone to electrical supply houses, and it looks like they will be bidding on that. They're gonna close on that on April 9th. So, again, that's just back to that, just under these specialized, things like electricians and plumbers, there's just a shortage of them out there. And that's the main reason why we just didn't get any bids. But right now, Hughes is feeling quite confident that the cost would be, under this bid package too, including the electrical, would be about $27.5 million. We're gonna request, just to make sure enough, a contingency, if you will. They're gonna carry their own contingency, but we'd like to carry an additional one of about 800,000. That gets that amount up to 28.3 million. When Hughes put this out to bid, they had 6 alternates, and those of you who have been in the design process maybe know what they are. 2 of them would really like to accept, I think, for the long-term health of the to get us going on day one, and that's the kitchen remodel. It's tearing out that, there's a wall there to make it a better instructional space for our culinary arts. That's about 900,000, and doing some irrigation upgrades for just over 100,000. 2 that we may consider later, it shouldn't change, but that is the turf. Opposite the Trace building, we were looking at putting turf. Now, 700,000 is a lot of money, and that's a concern to us. Part of it is also the 30-year maintenance of not doing it. So we look at that too, of the water and the upkeep, grass. We don't really want to put grass, we'd probably xeriscape it in this environment, but just doing the upkeep of that. So again, looking to see what comes back on the electrical. We haven't said no to those, but we won't be saying yes to those. Again, we could do those later at the end of the project, a year from now. 2 alternates that we've said no to is, we kind of looked at what an outdoor kitchen would look like. We knew that was a long shot and it's just too much. We have a CSD TV shed we'd like to do, but we kind of think our kids could build it a lot cheaper than what the bid came in. It was about 450,000, and
Sounds like
we think our kids could do it for about a quarter of that. So those are what we're looking at. So if you add up the bids to date, again, rounding to the nearest 100,000, the architect patch that we did way back when with MHTN and also Gardner Design, the Trace building that you approved in December was 14.4. And in this bid package with the 2 alternates and that contingency, 29.3. So that'd be 46.6, again, out of the 56.6 that we had available. We'd like to get that approved so they could begin their, again, our next board meeting is the Teacher of the Year. We didn't really want to bring it then. And then our next one isn't until May, so we'd like to get that approved so they can get going here in mid to later April, in a few weeks once they get everything finalized. So that's our goal of bringing that to you tonight. Is that 2 last things that, again, to outfit the CIC that we're still looking at is what's needed for multimedia, and that's going to be a big program there. Again, we have a variety of options that we can discuss, we're going to discuss with the committee this upcoming week on that. You can see a range there, and also other equipment. Well, we'll be bringing we have equipment built into these bids. We also will be bringing equipment over from C-Tech. That's functional with that as well. Also keep in mind the catalyst build, they now call it Apex, if you will, but that was funded at $35 million. We haven't seen if those who qualified in round 1 still qualify in round 2. We'll have to see how that shakes out. If they do, we do plan to go after a little bit more to get some more equipment.
They've said you can't do it until you complete.
Is that right?
Yeah, so we wouldn't be eligible until 29.
Very good, thanks, Reed. Go ahead.
No, I mean, this with all the specialized equipment, there's gonna be more upkeep and replacement that needs to happen. How will we fund that going forward so we maintain high-quality equipment
So
there?
that's part of, we've talked about as our debt rolls off, we will allocate more capital funding for that, and that would roll into, part of that would be looking at upgrading elementary schools, of course. But a little bit with that would set aside for the Innovation Center to rotate equipment through there. So that's our long-term plan on that. Good question on that. Yeah, we don't want to get it going and 5 years later being 10 years later, once the equipment wears out of behind, if you will. Any questions? Oh, go ahead, Holly.
Oh, just aside from what Katie mentioned, is there any other anticipated costs, or does this get us there?
This is all the 2 bid packages would be these 2. The only other thing would be the equipment, so no, we don't anticipate any other construction costs. Keep in mind, this only does the first and second floors. It's not going up to the 3rd floor. So here's when we look to expand up there, that there'll probably be something there, but this is just the top 2 floors. And no, we don't see any more construction. No, this should cover it. This is on the consent agenda. It's written as a purchasing bid. So for your possible approval with that. But is there any questions? And before I turn it over to Sam.
Okay, doesn't look like it. Thank you, Liam.
I'll turn over you.
Appreciate Leon and all the work that's been put into that and the board. We're just excited to be here tonight. We've been working hard. Just want to introduce Sam again. He'll take the majority of the time on this, but we really worked hard at trying to come up with some naming and partnership rights, what that looks like for our partners in terms of, the biggest thing we want to have investment in is the human capital side of it, and then certainly capitalize on the other. So I'm going to let Sam do that, but I want to express my appreciation and admiration for the expertise he's brought to the position. He knows everyone, it seems like. The circuit's getting bigger every day, and we really appreciate that. That's been really good for the district and everything we're doing. So go ahead, Sam.
Oh, it's my first time up here talking to y'all, so I think this is the clicker here that I would use to walk through. Okay. Well, again, thank you. Really excited to be here, and to the board and to the foundation people. Everybody's been so warm and welcoming and helpful. And as I've transitioned out of my cave in the classroom out into this new world that Reed's brought us into, or brought me into from my former life was in business and out in the community a lot, so it's been fun to get reacclimated into that space. So my job really has 3 components. Number one, I'm very involved in trying to be the context holder for all things CAPS for our CTEC teachers, and make sure that those teachers know what we're doing, and that as we bring on these projects and the profession-based learning framework, that I'm able to onboard these projects with them, and the teachers understand that relationship needs to look very professional, and the students need to be prepared for that. Of course, secondly, the sponsorship opportunity. We've had many great advisors, and those of you guys that have been there, some of you guys are on our steering committee. The energy level and the excitement is palpable, and that's a credit to Reed and the foundational work that he's done. And he says, I know everybody, but if you know Reed, he literally knows everybody. And if he doesn't know him, he's going to walk up to you and say, hi, I'm Reed Newey, and then he's going to know you. So he's great at networking, and he's built great relationships, so I'm not starting from scratch, and that's awesome. And then the third thing, of course, is to take what you guys have directed and weave in entrepreneurship curricula into all areas of the foundation. And so I've been working closely with Lawrence Lee and his team as we do that. And I think that work is coming along nicely. But tonight, again, I'm here to talk to you about this rule, the second thing that I mentioned, which is the sponsorship program. So again, it's really our partners that are pushing us in this space. I've been approached by Hughes, by HCA, and by others to say, hey, what can we do in this level, in this space? And so we need to put this program together. Of course, I told them to wait, because we didn't even have a logo yet. But now, thanks to Kirsten and her team, we have an amazing logo. An amazing logo is the beginning of a great brand, but it's not the end. It's just sort of one piece of building a brand. I don't normally read slides, but because my kids that I all taught for the last 13 years would be angry, but I'm going to read this one. We've got to have a vision statement, and so we worked very hard at building this, and this is through our team, our group, within CTEC, but then larger. We reached out to the CAPS network and all the great people at CAPS. We investigated literally hundreds of different vision and mission statements. We poured over all of the language that you guys have used as we've articulated what this mission, what this center will be about, and again, even poured over podcasts that Reed and Rick gave, and our partner at 47G, Aaron, talked about, to actually come up with something that we think is strong and aspirational and really speaks, I think, not just in the moment, but ongoing what we think this center should be. So I hope you guys like this. This is certainly not something that we've rolled out yet publicly, other than just in our steering committee, but this is what we feel should be our vision statement. So as I'll read it. Redefining education through industry-connected problem solving and innovation, launching the next generation of leaders, innovators, and change makers. If we're gonna go out with a proposal, we have to tell everybody who we are and who we aspire to be. That's the vision. As I was working with people in CAPS and talking about our mission statement, this actually, they reminded me, your mission is already there. You have the 6 pillars. And so now it's a matter of trying to articulate what those pillars look like. And with some esteemed people in this room, we've been crafting and recrafting this message, but guided by our 6 pillars. So our mission: we create opportunities for every student to reach their fullest potential through profession-based learning, self-discovery, and exploration. We guide students in their growth and development of professional skills and foster entrepreneurial mindset, preparing them to be the next generation of responsive professionals and industry leaders. All 6 pillars are represented there. It really doesn't look like that on mine, so I shared these slides with you guys. So looks like there's a weird space there on the comma and the hyphen, but it doesn't look like that on the actual slide that I have on my presentation. So I don't know, that's just a formatting thing. But anyway, that's our mission statement. We're very proud of it. People have comments?
Yes, I love this. I apologize I wasn't able to be at the last meeting because
We missed you.
But I'm just wondering, is there any way to be able to align the mission statement a little bit more language-wise with the portrait of a Kenyan scholar? Just so that it aligns, from K all the way up through graduation, like in the Innovation Center. I think so many of those professional skill sets that are mentioned in the portrait is applicable and probably aligned, but it would be nice to have it as recognizable.
Yes. Is it possible? It certainly is. The question becomes, length, and then also competing, ideas. Like the pillars that we've established for the Innovation Center are sort of unique to the Innovation Center, but I think that they need to be first and foremost and re-emphasized and reinforced to our teachers as well as to our students. Because if we don't have full buy-in from them that this is what we're doing, and this is who we say we're going to be. And so I think the danger, because I did contemplate that, and I read it, and that was actually another board member's suggestion, and it's a good one. I just felt like it was hard to weave in both messages in a way that was, keeping it to a paragraph and also not convoluting the message. And I think that the core thing really is these 6 pillars, but I appreciate that, and I could make an attempt at it.
One other thing about that, if I could interject too, board member, is that
No, I got you.
the Catalyst or the Apex grant people have really adopted the CAPS model as kind of their guidelines. Like we've had 3 mini sessions from the state people on the CAPS principles. So we've tried to weave those into this, but we can certainly look at that and see what we can do further on it.
Well, that's the portrait of a Kenyan scholar really is derived from our strategic plan. And so I just would love to be able to see some aspect of the strategic plan reflected in all of this, and even if you just made reference to it. In accordance with Kenyan school districts, like portrait of a Kenyan scholar, and then lay this out. But I think it's important that no matter where you are as a student in the district, because to your point, you're right, it does need to be recognizable. And in high quality learning, we've been discussing that a lot, about how to make sure that the portrait of a Kenyan scholar isn't kept under wraps and a secret in the corner. Like it's out there in front of every student from kindergarten on up. But we haven't done a great job of that, and we're working towards that. And it would be great to have this as kind of that capstone experience with those principles, so.
I don't at all disagree. And maybe it's so valuable that we need to make sure that it's there somewhere on our wall as a separate statement. And maybe we can make reference to that. So I appreciate it. I just, again, we don't want to make this thing too long and we don't want to convolute the
It's
difference.
just good editing. I think it's possible.
We can do it. Okay.
Mr.
Yes, thank you.
You brought up another board member had mentioned that as well. And I just want to lend my voice to, I think that's a great idea. You kind of dismissed that offhand, like right there. So that's why I wanted to speak up to say that I think that that's a great idea. And
Well, and I
So
think
sorry
our
if I seem
committee
dismissive.
should discuss it. I don't remember discussing it in the
Right, that's true.
the vision or the mission. So I do think it's something our committee needs to discuss. in the
See you tomorrow, yeah, so for sure. These are just first blushes at this, and you guys' first time to look at it, and I don't want to be dismissive at all. So I apologize if that's the way I came off. It certainly wasn't my intention. So I'll continue. The next thing that I wanted to share with you guys was in our package as we go out and talk to the different perspective partners and industry leaders is convincing them, again, these slides look entirely different on your formatting, so I'm sorry about the spacing, but anyway, why partner with us? And I'm not going to read all of those. You guys have seen these in the notes before you got here tonight, but this comes from the CAPS language. By the way, the people in Kansas City at CAPS in Blue Valley have written 2 letters of endorsement about both the sponsorship program as well as the mission and vision statement, and we're very excited about what we've done, and I'd be happy to share those out with the board later and tomorrow in our working committee. So anyway, our first thing would be to get in front of a prospective industry partner and talk about why it's important to partner with us and why they would want to do that. And then beyond that, they didn't look like this at all. I'm so sorry about the formatting because that's just not the way they look. But anyway, what are the different sponsorship levels? So our lowest level is community donor and our highest level is innovation partner. Now, it's hard to really know. The ones I want to focus on are the ones that would have naming rights, which would be exclusivity or the exclusive sponsor and the innovation partner. And at those levels, we have a $50,000 level and a $250,000 level. And there's some flexibility in how that money is laid out. Now, again, I just didn't randomly come up with these numbers. We investigated Catalyst Center and a bunch of others throughout Brains and so forth about what they're asking. And it's really hard to know. We've also looked at even the colleges like UVU and their new engineering building. It's really not hard to know what this sort of thing is worth. There's not like, a price menu that you can find, right? Everything is unique. But we wanted to allow ourselves enough flexibility that we thought that our current partners would be excited about. Our advisory board would be able to commit to. And some of those can commit to more dollars, but that's actually not the most valuable thing. As Reed mentioned, sometimes it's the human capital or the in-kind donation that's super important. So this program allows us to renew it every 5 years and allows us some flexibility and is in line. Again, talking to Erica Land at CAPS in Kansas City, and trying to be strategic about it. These were the numbers that we landed at. So $250,000 committed over a 5-year period. Up to 80% of that could be an in-kind donation or through human capital. And then our next level, and by the way, that would be a large space naming right, like an auditorium or a large hall within the school. And then the next level down would be the $50,000 level, exclusive sponsor, and that would be a partner that wanted to come in and name a classroom or a room within or a space within the Innovation Center, with up to 75% of that being in kind and spread over a 5-year commitment. And then again, the lower levels, these would just be smaller donors. And like I say, we have a number of meetings, Reed actually mentioned it, that people that are excited to talk to us in the coming weeks. In the next 2 weeks, we have Nicholas and Company coming out to talk to us about culinary. We have ICO and Ivory Homes coming out to talk to us about construction. And then we have many meetings with the people that we already have. So we're expanding that network. So what we're going to do is essentially those donations will come in through the foundation. We're going to expand the foundation with what we're doing now here. New partners that will be available to this district. So we're extremely excited about what we think is our potential in terms of bringing in not only revenue, but great project-based learning and profession-based learning for our students. And that's essentially what I wanted to talk to you guys about, but it is important that we get out there and start talking to these guys. Again, in our notes, or in your notes, we have these levels that require more commitment. Again, the first being the $10,000 level. I skipped over the lowest level just because, again, that's just anybody that wants to come in and do a project with us. But this first level at $10,000, and that would include things like memberships, externships, be involved in judging competitions, collaborating with the students, invited to all of the Innovation Center and community events. Then I won't go over all the things that it included before, but as we move up the ladder, you get a little bit more here. And as we get into the exclusive naming rights, the Innovation Center has 15 area programs. Each will have a dedicated sponsor naming areas on walls and window space within the center. We're working with MHTN. In fact, we have a meeting with them this week to identify those spaces so that as we go out and meet with these different partners, we can actually literally show them where their logo would look like as we see it on their space, as well as this whole package that we'll share with them. And then exclusive partners will be our partners of choice in collaborative opportunities. So as things come available to us, they're the first ones that we reach out to and say, hey, we've got an engineering opportunity. We want to talk to Jacobson. So they would be, as an example, certainly not speaking for them. They haven't committed to anything yet, but as an idea. And then finally, our innovation partners. And we think these are large companies that would, again, would name large spaces after or have their partnership on our auditorium, maybe even our trades building, and again, identifying those spaces with MHTN. So again, covering even all the things we've talked about before, but dedicated wall of thanks at the entry. They'd be large. The electronic displays that we'll have throughout the sponsor, sort of having their marketing, their corporate marketing available to them. And then again, on the large spaces like the culinary dining hall and auditorium and so forth. And so that's the program as we've outlined it so far. I'm excited to go out there and present it to the advisory team that we already have and those partners that we already have. But again, even more excited to bring on many, many new partners. Yes, thank you. Board member
I know this is something that we can discuss more tomorrow in our meeting, but is there like any discussion about the idea of being able to give them like airtime even like with CSD TV? Like if we're doing a podcast, you'd say this podcast is brought to you in part by sponsorship by the following, individuals. Radio is still the most popular form of advertising out there.
For local advertising,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, no, that's where that was kind of the electronic displays and running their messaging within the schools is where I was thinking about that. Absolutely, 100%. We want to involve them in all of our broadcasting, bring them in to our stage, almost like a TED Talks, doing podcasting. All of those things have been thought about, and they would be the largest level sponsors, the exclusive and the strategics would be the first people that we talk to and say, we need you here. Great question.
Justin shaking his
Yeah, and a part of that also, we're looking at being able to offer them the ability to produce their content in our building with our students.
Yes.
As an option, so that they can not only maybe have some time in a broadcast or whatnot, but actually use our space and our students to create their own podcast or a commercial that is a part of their sponsorship opportunities. So it gives our kids those real world opportunities as well alongside that. So kind of doing a yes and some more.
Yeah, excellent.
Awesome. Mrs. Nywer.
This is somewhat related, when we're talking about CSD TV, it would also be great to have a good advertisement about the Innovation Center, especially on our sports streaming, because everyone watches our sports streaming, and so that would be a great avenue for marketing to get kids interested and involved. We could have highlights of different project-based learning, industry partners, and things like that, because that's just a whole other level of exposure.
This is something
Really great.
that Jeff has been working a lot on and trying to standardize our broadcasting across our schools to provide more of our opportunity to be able to feed them some things and then make sure we kind of have some level playing field around the district as well. So I think that's a part of that we can feed them some things from the district level and then they can also feed us some things back up to make sure we're supporting with our schools.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a good suggestion. And marketing the CIC is going to be incredibly important and work that needs to start right away. So great suggestion.
Okay, board, any other comments or questions? Okay, so are we all okay with Sam, giving Sam the okay to move forward, start talking to businesses, all that?
Please.
Okay, that
do it.
sounds great. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Really nice to be here.
Okay, Ryan. Okay, our next item on our agenda is Strategic Plan Focus Group Report, Human Center Supports by Dr. Brian McGill, Director of Student Services. Okay, he told me this could be 5 to 7, his presentation.
I said 10 to
5.
15.
Oh, come on.
And then it all depends on the comments and questions.
Oh, yeah, total.
Yeah.
Totally.
We're fine, it's 6:30.
It's
We
a-
can do
it's
it.
a-
We
it's a-
got it.
It's a consolidated presentation, I'll just leave it at that. Before I get started, as we talk about human-centered supports, I just wanted to take a minute and express my gratitude and appreciation to Dr. Robbins and the advisement, the coaching, the mentorship, and the leadership that he's provided to this district over the last while. He said a couple of things in my first high school level meeting that have always stuck with me. And there were things that his dad said to him that my dad said to me, which is why it stuck with me. The first of those is just being present. He said that's 80% of the battle, is just being present, being visible, being a part of the process, being a part of the solution. The second part to that, which my dad would always say to me as well, is make sure you leave things better than when you arrived or found them or became a part of them. So anyway, I just wanted to take a minute as we're talking about human-centered supports. He's somebody that has put 30 years of his life in serving other human beings, students and employees. So I just wanted to mention that. I also want to make mention to Dr. Robinson, who's stepping into this role. I think the board made a very wise decision. In fact, one of the things I said to my wife, as we knew that Dr. Robbins was departing, I said one of the wisest things they could do is actually appoint McKay to this position. And the reason why I said that is I've had an opportunity to work under and with McKay. He is a man of integrity. He's very intelligent. He's authentic. And the thing I love about him the most is that he always puts students and people first in his decision-making process. So anyways, as I said to him the night it was announced, it's your ship, which was a book we read in cabinet from Captain Abrashoff, who we got to hear in person at the Texas School Center Safety Conference a few years back. So anyways, we're ready to stand behind you as well as beside you and help you out. All right, let's jump on in. So I included the impact statement. I think we're all well aware of the comprehensive safety, looking at physical and psychological safety for students and staff, and then the tiered wellness systems. In December, when I presented, I had the chart that we brought up with all the priority indicators and the fact that we had met or exceeded all the indicators, which was really exciting to present on. A big part of that was the Thrive Time, which is one of our tiered wellness systems, and I'll also speak to our 912 prospect of what we're looking for that particular solution. So themes this year. Board member Pedersen told me at the start of the year, I want to focus on two things, and that's ESPs, which we've done, as well as looking at our employee assistance program and ways that we can market and provide outreach and get that information out to our employees. And I would like to say we've successfully done some of that, and I'll dive a little bit more into that in the slides. Thrive Time, as I already made mention, we did create some benchmarks so we can actually do some pre and post assessment as it relates to the Thrive Time units. Allie Teller, who's overseeing that in my department, comes back from maternity on Monday after spring break. And I'm really excited to welcome her back with open arms because she's done an amazing job refining lessons a year ago, and we're going to look to do the same, especially as we look at a couple of units of respecting self and others and understanding and serving our community. We've had some issues that have permeated in our schools, and we want to make sure that we're addressing those to the fullest capacity. We'll talk about the 912 life skills, like I mentioned, some of the legislation that Sharice mentioned with reintegration, with the juvenile justice system reform, lots of attendance bills as well. So looking at all of that, SHARPS data, which we went through last meeting, our attendance work group, which I'll speak to that, which is new. That's something that Dr. Robbins asked me to lead out on just a couple of weeks before his departure. So And then behavioral support. We've done a ton of training, and in fact, McKay and I were just in a meeting a little while ago with legal, talking about specific training that we need to be providing for our employees as well as for our students and parents in our communities. So we're going to continue to tackle that. Getting back to the employee wellness piece, which again is one of our 4 pillars in human-centered supports. I don't know how many of you guys had an opportunity to come listen to Brian Kill, who's actually a workout partner of mine at the gym that I work out at. See him all the time. He's a great guy. We've had him come out and present at the High School Leadership Academy. He's great with kids. Obviously, kids look up to him and resonate with his story. I thought he did an excellent job talking about his personal narrative, the support that his parents provided to him, and how that empowered him to eventually become professional athlete. So big kudos to our HR team. Everett solicited input and feedback on the training for our ESPs, and those are highlighted and listed there. It's a pretty good blend and balance between work-related items to build their capacity on the job, but also just looking at their overall wellness, their health, and some self-care, which we know is extremely important in our field as educators, as we give so much to those that we serve. ESP and miscellaneous job description study. This is something that has been requested and asked for quite some time. Karen's smiling here because Everett has finally produced that, and he provided us all copies in our last meeting. Part of that is to be able to look at pay and equity as it relates to our employees across the board, looking at roles and responsibilities. Employee daycare, that was brought up in our last meeting. One of the requests is to look at extending the hours beyond 4 o'clock, so our employees actually have time to wrap up and finish their duties on the job and be able to go pick their kids up without a penalty. So that's something that we're taking a look at. Also on the employee wellness front, this is also something I'm very excited about. We have transitioned over as of January 1 to Magellan Health for our employee assistance program. You can see all the various supports that they provide. The thing that I think I'm most excited about this are all the proactive, preventative digital tools that employees can take advantage of, which they didn't have access to in our prior employee assistance program, as well as they can still continue to do counseling, therapy, and in-person, through telehealth means, through text or chat. And then I just listed up there, I reached out to Robert Reeder a couple weeks ago, and I said, look, I recognize we just came on January 1, but I'm curious to know what our utilization is with our employees. We have a little over 4% that have jumped in. We were averaging about 6 to 7% with Bloomquist Hell, but we also extended a 90-day agreement with Bloomquist, so we still have employees. As of today, I think is the last day that partnership expires. So I would imagine a lot of those individuals that are transitioning, right? So I would expect to see those numbers go up. And then I've just provided the context for why people are reaching out and the various services and supports that they're looking to get help with. So, all right, let's talk a little bit about life skills curriculum for 9-12. This is something that Katie, I know, and that the last time I came up here and presented, inquired about. And I've exchanged some information with her. But since then, we've had multiple meetings. We've actually, McKay, as part of our MTSS leadership, brought in both InFocus and Wayfinder to do demos and presentations on the curriculum itself. Both are great products. One's a little bit pricier than the other, so obviously looking at costs. But we feel like either one of these solutions would be a great fit for what we're looking for our high school kids. We presented an MTSS leadership on it, as well as human-centered supports, high-quality learning. The last meeting we had, I presented out on it. And then it would align with both Thrive Time as well as a Portrait of a Canyon Scholar. So what I envision is kids learning about Portrait of the Scholar tenets and the definitions and terms and the work ethic that they have to meet those critical competencies by the time they graduate. And then to be able to award them with that in the end as well, which I think would be awesome. So it's a 25-step, 18-month curriculum adoption process that you guys are very familiar with. And so MTSS, via McKay, and through his direction, gave us the green light to continue to move forward on that. So the earliest adoption and implementation would be fall of '27. A big part of what needs to happen in terms of the infrastructure for high school is we have a few of our schools that have an advisory period already built into the schedule in the day. We would have to add that to one of our high schools so that we could, have purpose, targeted goals, and consistency with how we're rolling that out and how we're teaching it and presenting it to students. And that's something that Dr. Sherwood's been tasked with as of recent. Attendance committee formulation. So recently I had Laura Tuesday, Heathfield, and ISD begin to put together kind of a 4-year analysis and snapshot of attendance data, looking at things longitudinally and then also breaking down, disaggregating different demographic groups so that we can have a real targeted focus on moving the dial with attendance. It's something that Dr. Robbins had asked of me, like I said, a couple weeks before all the changes. I've asked McKay, says, yeah, we need to focus on this. So my vision with this is to invite directors in and assistant directors from various departments. With attendance, we all have a touch point, right? And whether that's communications with Jeff and Kirsten, sending out outreach materials and marketing, whether it's our team looking at ODR data and suspensions and how that equates to kids out of school. So bringing everybody together, as well as making sure that we have the voice at the table from our principals and APs at elementary, middle school, and high school, and getting some parental input and feedback too as to how we can better address this. So that's kind of the plan. And as McKay and I have talked, really if you move the dial with attendance, you're increasing engagement and you're increasing achievement, which are indicators that we all care about and want to see continue to improve. Sharps data, I don't know how much of this you want me to speak to because I just did a full presentation last board meeting, but I did list just some of the top indicators in there and also presented out in the Access and Opportunity Focus Group. And we looked at some of the data in the Hillcrest feeder, which is something that Jackson had requested from us, so we took a look at that. And then training and support, as I mentioned, McKay and I and Legal were just in a meeting about this, looking at providing more training for discipline as it relates to looking at policy, our levels of behavior document, which we continue to refine. And going to the Davis Dignity Symposium the last couple of years, we've been really able, kind of side by side, to incorporate a lot of the elements that they've done up there with DOJ stepping in. And I feel very proud and confident in the work that we're doing in this area. You can see a list of all the different types of training and PD we're providing. But as McKay mentioned in the meeting we had earlier, it's something that we need to continue to press forward on, and it needs to be ongoing, right? Consistent over time. And then I just thought I'd wrap up with something kind of fun. So the whole Red Shoes Living, which Holly had brought up last meeting, it's been so much fun, and it brings me and our team and the people that we recognize so much joy. I can't tell you the number of times we go out and we surprise people and it's completely unexpected. And we try to do such in front of their peers or in front of their entire school community, which just kind of raises the ante in terms of what we're doing to recognize and celebrate our employees. And it started out with our wellness staff in the schools, and you can see how it's kind of expanded out. And every week I get 2 or 3 nominations from principals and APs submitting names forward, and they've tied in with a narrative how that person is living or emulating the Red Shoes Living pillars. And then we go out and basically present that. We just did one for Debbie Christensen and ISD just late last week, and it was awesome. I bragged on her so much, she said she wanted to take me home, so I'm not really sure what that meant. But anyway, we got some pictures up there. Some of the most engaging, most fun awards have been those, like I said, our bus drivers and just people that are committed to kids and doing work day in and day out. And again, as I said in the last meeting, there's nothing more vitally important in my mind, whereas 90% of our budget is going to human capital to make sure that our employees feel seen, heard, and valued in their efforts and the work that they're doing day in and day out. And there's always more that we can be doing. There's always more value-added measures. There's always more benefits, and it doesn't have to be extrinsic in nature. It can be, ways to just recognize people for the great work they're doing day in and day out. So that's all I got.
Okay, great. Board, are there any questions or comments? Mr. Edel, then Mrs. Dolly.
So first off, Like, this is great, and I also appreciate the amount of time you had on your presentation. And I did some pre-reading, and so I just want to hone in specifically on daycare, and this is less for you, right? And you know how important the district daycare has been for me. But to mention that like, daycare is a temporary phase in a teacher's life, but when a teacher leaves because they can't have daycare, that tends to be a permanent phase in their life. And so I just wanted to emphasize how important it is that we do what we need to take care of that. And I appreciate all the work that's gone into that. I mean, that's been a huge undertaking and a long process, but so incredibly important because it's not enough to say, like, you chose your life, figure it out, right? Because figuring it out is not being here. And when the market can't provide it, we do. But anyway, so I just wanted to mention that, and I didn't want to also sound dismissive of your other stuff. I mean, this is great, but I just wanted to make sure we're all thinking of that, especially as I know it's difficult to solve those few extra minutes at the end, but that could mean how many teachers stay with us long term.
No, it's huge. You're speaking to somebody who brought his kids from 6 months all the way through the preschool graduation at Riverton High School where I worked. So I was the dad as a coach and as a counselor and later an administrator, carrying my baby with me and the baby diaper bag and then my coaching bag and loaded up coming into school every day. And of course, my colleagues would be like, you look like you're pretty weighed down. Can I help you out there? And I'm like, no, I'm good, just charging forward. But yeah, it was, I can't even tell you how important and how critical that was for my wife and I to be able to have that as an option. So I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think we need to do everything we can to not only extend the time, but also look at ways that we can expand additional opportunities in time. So,
Mrs. Dolly, then Mrs. Oak.
I just want to say thank you for all the work you're doing, because like you said, if we take care of our people, it allows us to accomplish so many more of the goals that we have for the district, and also prepares our students, gives them the foundation, the tools they need as they go out into the workforce and college and whatever else when they have these tools to help them be successful.
appreciate it. That's good.
Mrs. Oak.
So to the point about daycare, so I don't know if you remember this, but I grew up with my mother doing a daycare out of her home for 30 years. So from the time I was 7 years old all the way up through. That, from a regulatory lens, is a freaking nightmare. And when we talked about doing it, I was like, well, this is a big thing. I mean, she had a folder this thick. She'd come in and get inspected by the state every year. She was so stressed out. It was a lot of work. And I would love to just take the chance to say thank you, wherever you are, Steve Diamond, for that heavy lift and his staff. Because, I mean, I remember him coming in with the big folder and he was like, this is so much bigger than I realized. But the fact that we have heard so few issues about 3 different daycares functioning on a daily basis in our district when we have infants and toddlers, like, hello. Like, that is massive. And that means that they've done a really bang up job. And I agree with your sentiments. I'm totally open to the idea of extending it, a little bit to accommodate that need. I remember most of my mom's clientele actually were school teachers. And she would close her doors every day at 5, and man, they were sweating it just to even get back by that time. So I can't imagine the 4 o'clock hour. I think that's hard.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks.
I also wanted to say thank you, and I really appreciate this presentation. I love that you ended with Red Shoes Living, because I just have to say, I think you're modeling exactly what we want people to do in our schools and in our classrooms. That positive reinforcement, that you're recognizing them and what they're doing, and the promoting this idea of awareness and gratitude and respect and kindness, and everyone has a story. You're doing all of that in that Red Shoes Living, and then that translates to the classroom, so it's from the top down. So I can't think of a better thing for a human-centered support department to do than that. So I really love that. So thank you.
Appreciate that. And we have 2 tomorrow, so I'll be sporting my red shoes. We'll be out at Ridgecrest at 8:45 and Altair at 12:45 if you're interested. I'm not gonna mention names because it's a surprise. But if the schools are listening, now they know which schools are involved. But anyway, yeah, we look forward to it every week. We started with one a week, and then as the nominations organically have just grown from the bottom up, I am finding a way to make sure that me and my team, or a portion of our team, is out at every single award, and we're scheduling those to be able to meet every nomination that comes through. And I tell my team there's nothing more important than us going out and serving the very people. That's why we have jobs.
Awesome.
Okay, thank you, Dr. McGill, so much. We appreciate all your committees doing, and you guys are doing amazing work. And I do have one question about this drive time curriculum. That will just come before the board, like, at the curriculum process of curriculum.
The 9-12 curriculum?
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, we're on like step 6, 7 of the 25, presented it in MTSS, and then AK and the group said, yeah, let's go ahead and continue to move forward. So I just need to make sure that I'm on the timeline as we move things forward, so, yes.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, you bet. Thank you.
Okay, I will now declare study session over, and we will start business meeting at 7:00. Thank you, everyone.
We did it, we did it.
I know.
I knew we could.
We're still live.
Thank you, everyone.
Right, the
Once again.
master of keeping.
I know. I was worried.
Amber, you're
I texted all the presenters, you have 20 minutes.
Full of rain.
Yeah, you did great. And they did it. We got through it all and it's all important, so I'm glad.
How you doing? Welcome, everyone, to the meeting of the Canyons Board of Education. Today is March 30th, 2026, and we're meeting at the district office located at 9361 South 300 East in Sandy, Utah. I would like to excuse Mr. Jackson Lewis. He's not with us tonight. And then I will now take a motion to approve the agenda for tonight.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda tonight, March 31st.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion. Is there a second to that?
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion to that motion? Okay, seeing none, I will call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously. The next item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance, and we will be joined today by Corner Canyon Principal Dina Kohler, and then she's going to share some highlights from Corner Canyon.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ooh, that's so awesome. Thank you, everybody. That's amazing. Well, I'm Dina Kohler, and I'm lucky enough to be the principal of Corner Canyon High School. Thank you so much for having me tonight. Good evening, President Schill, members of the board, Superintendent Robinson, Mr. Wilcox, and community members. It is a privilege to stand here today and represent Corner Canyon High School, a place filled with energy, excellence, and an unwavering commitment to students. At Corner Canyon, you can feel the momentum when you walk through those doors. It's in the classrooms where students are pushing themselves academically. It's on the stage where creativity comes to life. And it's on our fields and courts where teamwork, grit, and pride are on full display. Our students are not just participating, they're thriving, leading, and setting the standard. But none of this happens by accident. The true heroes are who I want to talk about for a minute. I want to take a moment to recognize the incredible educators and staff who make this possible every single day. Their passion, dedication, and belief in our students are what fuel this school. They show up early, they stay late, they give their whole hearts to ensure that every student is supported, challenged, and known. Quiet, simply, their simple reason is that's why Corner Canyon is what it is because of their efforts. Because of them, our students have access to extraordinary opportunities, rigorous academics, meaningful extracurriculars, championship-level athletics, so I hear, and programs that help them discover who they are and who they want to be, which is a value of mine. And speaking of opportunity, I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to the board for the approval of our new field house and turf fields. I also want to thank Matt, Luke, and the entire facility team. It was a true pleasure to work with all of you. This is a game changer for our school. It creates safer, more accessible spaces for students to train, compete, and connect. It allows us to expand opportunities and better serve students, not only athletes, but our entire school community. At Corner Canyon, we are proud of where we are, but we are even more excited about where we're going. The energy is real, the momentum is building, and the best is still to come. Corner Canyon is just one piece of the puzzle that makes Canyon School District a great place to raise a family, which I have done, and a great place to work, which I'm lucky enough to do. Thanks for your support.
Okay, thank you so much. We love to hear about our schools, and we really appreciate your staff. And I love what you said about every student is supported, challenged, and known. And we would love that at all our schools. So please pass on our thanks from the board to your staff.
Thank you all so much. And a special thanks to our advocates, Holly and Amanda, who are so amazing. Thank you. And for all of you. Appreciate you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the Canyon Strong Student Recognitions, and this will be by Jeff Haney, Director, and Kirsten Stewart, Associate Director of Communications.
Thank you, President Schill, for this time to recognize those who show the world why we are Canyon Strong. It's been quite a whirlwind in recent days in Canyon School District, with big things happening all across Canyons, including the appointment of our next superintendent, Dr. McKay Robinson. That was the last time that the board met, and since that time, it's truly been like March Madness, Canyons District style. Even before Selection Sunday, Unified Hoops teams from Corner Canyon and Jordan High School got the chance to play at the home of the Utah Jazz. The Chargers and the Beat Diggers competed with dozens of teams from across the state in the 5th Annual Special Olympics Unified Sports Basketball Tournament. Now, the headline of the day was this: the Beat Diggers win. Congratulations to Jordan High School, the Cinderella of the tournament. They captured the state Unified Hoops title, so congratulations to Jordan High School. Now, yes, let's give the Beat Diggers a round of applause. Now, if your NCAA bracket was like mine and folded like a cheap tent early, here's news about a feel-good tournament that is held to make everyone feel like a winner, even if they lose on a buzzer beater, and that is this Canyon School District Middle School's Intramurals Hoops Tournament. Teams from Draper Park, Albion, Eastmont, and Butler captured wins. Teams of boys and girls at each grade level competed for the medals, trophies, and of course the bragging rights. And one more time, we give a big Canyon Strong shout out to Eastmont Assistant Principal Taylor Hansen for coordinating our middle school intramurals program. For the basketball games, he was assisted by Union's Assistant Principal Carly Ardemas. We give a big thanks to her as well. Now, the Hawks and the Bengals made quite a splash at the 5A and 6A state swimming championships. Can you believe we have not met since they won these state championships? The Hawks won the state title in the 200 medley relay. The Hawks also were victorious in the Special Olympics Unified Swim event. Congratulations to Skyla Staley for earning the state championship in the Unified Girls 50 Freestyle. Now, the picture there of a Brighton High swimmer, Lewin Barnard. He is a repeat state champion, and once again, he's proved that he is one of Utah's swimming elite. He won both the 200 freestyle and the 100 backstroke events. His time in the backstroke set a new state record. He is committed to the University of Utah, and he also led the Bengals' 200 medley team. They won the state championship, and they set a new 6A record time. You may note that Brighton is a 5A school, but they competed in swimming in 6A. Now, if that wasn't enough, Lewin also set a 100 freestyle 6A record with his opening 100 meters in the 400 free relay. Now, for all of these accomplishments, he was named the 6A Swimmer of the Year by the Utah Swimming Coaches Association, and maybe someday we'll be cheering for him in the Summer Olympics. And I understand he's actually training to compete for his home country at an upcoming Summer Games. Now, at a time when international diplomacy dominates the headlines, Brighton students are preparing to be power players on the global stage. Brighton's Model UN team, always a powerhouse, won major awards at the International Model UN Conference in New York City. They won the National Security Award in recognition for their exceptional diplomacy, understanding of complex global issues, and the ability to lead negotiations in one of the conference's most challenging committees. Now, the entire Bengal team also won another national award. They were further recognized with the Award for Excellence in Preparation and Research. This year's keynote speaker at the International Model UN Conference was former Utah Senator Mitt Romney, who met briefly via Zoom with two Bengals to answer questions about international politics. So congratulations to Brighton High's Model UN team and advisor Jim Hodges for earning these national honors. And as you know, we often talk about Brighton's Model UN team. They do very well at these international competitions, and they did so again this year. Canyon School District debate teams captured numerous awards at the State Speech and Debate High School Championships. Each Canyons high school had at least one individual state champion, including Bengal Marianne Jensen, a member of the board's Student Advisory Council, who won first place in original oratory. Corner Canyon's team won second place overall in the 6A sweepstakes, and the Alta Hawks took third place overall in 5A. Other first place winners at the state level include Brighton in the Lincoln Douglas debate category, Corner Canyon in policy debate, Congress informative, original oratory, Hillcrest for informative, and Jordan High in 4A informative, public forum, and original oratory. We all know teens like to debate their parents. Looks like they like to debate themselves, and they're pretty darn good at it here in the Canyon School District. A list of all of the winners is on our social media pages. Give us a like, give us a follow to stay up to date with all things Canyons. And as a side note, watch our socials in the coming days for photos and videos of the surprise announcement of all of our school teachers of the year. All of our schools, per our tradition, pick one teacher to honor and to be their nominee in the Canyons District Teacher of the Year selection process. All of our Teachers of the Year received prizes and awards from the Canyons Education Foundation, which last week held its spring gala to raise money for students and teachers all across our district. It was a huge success. A big thanks to all of our community partners who supported our gala. We would like to invite the community on April 21st to join us at Union Middle School. A reception starts at 6:15. The ceremony starts at 7. At that event, we'll announce our 2026 Canyons District Teacher of the Year and our nominee in the State Teacher of the Year competition. Now, we want to talk about music to our ears. More than 400 advanced choral students in Canyons Middle Schools performed at the Choir Assessments Festivals at Draper Park Middle School. The choir groups performed advanced pieces and received adjudications and live clinics from experts in the field. The middle school teachers asked the 5 high school teachers to be the panel of adjudicators and clinicians, so it was kind of an in-house council type of thing. The performances were broadcast by our very own CSD TV, and you can watch the performances if you didn't catch the live stream. Also, Butler, Draper Park, and Eastmont Middle Advanced Orchestras all performed at Libby Gardner Hall at the University of Utah for UMEA's State Middle School Orchestra Festival. To qualify for this state event, groups had to submit recordings and were judged through a blind audition process. Only about 30 orchestras and bands from across the entire state got chosen to perform. Butler was awarded straight superior marks from all of the judges. This accomplishment earned the Sweepstakes Award, one that is only given to orchestras that achieve a 1 rating from the 2 judges, as well as 1 from the sight reading judge. They actually evaluate the students on how well they can learn a piece of music in just 6 minutes. Draper Park also won top marks and a sweepstakes award. So congratulations to all of these student musicians in the Canyons District. Also, Alta High was the site of the State Jazz Festival in recent weeks. All Canyon schools that played at the festival earned an overall superior rating, with Brighton earning some of the highest scores at the festival. So congratulations to those high school student musicians as well. Now, next up, as we continue the applause for performing arts groups, Jordan High's band, orchestra, and choir students who competed at the Heritage Festival competition in San Diego won big awards. You can see they are so proud. They're holding their awards right there. At the event, Jordan students competed against students as far west as California and as far east as Tennessee. Seniors Johnny Ham and Kate Barnes received special Maestro awards from the judges for standing out in their respective disciplines on stage. The Jordan Wind Symphony took third place. The jazz band took second place. Orchestra took second. Madrigals took second. And a cappella, the national champions in Jordan's division. So congratulations to all of them. And the choir's scores qualified them to get an invitation to compete next year at the Festival of Gold at Carnegie Hall in New York City. The choirs took the sweepstakes award in the choral competition, and the band, orchestra, choir received the overall sweepstakes award for the highest combined scores across all divisions. This was the final award of the night, and obviously the most prestigious, and the Beat Diggers brought it home to Canyon School District. Congratulations to them. Hopefully, our recent success on the performing stage bodes well for our theater groups who are in the final rehearsals before the state competitions right after spring recess. Corner Canyon, Brighton, and Hillcrest are the region champions in theater, and Alta won second place sweepstakes at their region competition. We say break a leg to them. And the esports competitions also are right after spring recess. Best of luck to our esports students. These activities show that no matter what a student's interests or talents or skills, there are so many ways to find yourself in Canyon's district. President Schill, we thank you for the time to honor these students who are truly Canyon strong in so many ways. We turn the time back to you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Haney. We appreciate you, and we love to see our students excelling. So we have now come to the patron comment portion of our meeting. The board often designates time in meetings to listen to patrons of the district. Patron comment time is limited to residents and taxpayers of Canyons District, students and parents of students, and current employees of the district. Patrons may provide board members with written documents. These documents must be submitted to the board secretary at the meeting or emailed to the Office of Public Communications by noon of the day following the board meeting. Tonight, individuals will be given 2 minutes, and those representing groups will be given 4 minutes. Comments made during patron comment time are part of the public record. It is the board's practice to listen and take notes during patron comments. The Board of Education does not discuss matters that are not on the meeting's agenda, nor engage in public comment on individual students to protect their privacy or employee issues. If a patron wants to comment on a district employee's character, professional competence, or mental or physical health, the board requests that those comments be submitted to the board in writing. However, if the patron determines to verbally comment on those personnel issues, the comments need to be civil and refrain from personal attacks, insults, defamatory, or slanderous comments about an individual. The Board of Education values input on all sides of issues. To maintain decorum and respect, we ask that those in attendance refrain from applause or other types of demonstrations during the patron comment time, as well as throughout the meeting. Okay, the first person we have is Margaret Swaneke, and then the next is Drew Pearson.
Good evening, members of the Board of Education. Thank you for the time, effort, and care you put into serving the students and families in our communities. My name is Margaret Swaneke. This is my 21st year in education and 13th year as a Canyons Elementary principal. I am here representing a group, Canyons Association of Elementary School Principals. We count 100% of Canyons Elementary principals and assistant principals in our membership. Every day, children walk into our elementary schools carrying more than just backpacks and homework. Some carry worry about the things happening at home. Some carry grief, anxiety, or challenges that their young minds are still learning how to process. When children are facing these struggles, it can be very difficult for them to focus on learning. That is where social workers and counselors make a meaningful difference. Social workers and counselors support students' emotional and mental well-being during some of the most important developmental years of their lives. Young children often don't yet have the words or skills to explain what they are feeling. A social worker or counselor can help them develop healthy coping strategies, build resilience, and feel safe and supported at school. Social workers and counselors play a vital role in supporting our families. They help connect families with community resources such as food assistance, counseling services, healthcare, and more. When families have access to the help they need, students are better able to come to school ready to learn and participate. In addition, social workers and counselors strengthen the overall school environment. By teaching social skills, emotional regulation, conflict resolution, they help prevent behavioral challenges before they escalate. This not only benefits individual students, but also creates a calmer, more supportive classrooms where teachers can focus on teaching and students can focus on learning. Because of the important role they play, thank you for continuing to prioritize funding for social workers and counselors in our elementary schools. Thank you again for your service and for your continued commitment to helping every child thrive.
Okay, thank you. We'll next have Drew Pearson and then Heather Dupay.
My name is Drew Pearson. Thank you for your time. I am here to propose that Canyon School District adopt an email retention policy for all employees. I believe the current retention system is out of compliance. I recently did a grammar request for emails about me and my son. I have in my inbox multiple emails that meet the criteria of my grammar requests that were not produced. When I questioned why emails are missing, I was told that the person I requested them from must have deleted them because they are no longer in the system. This contradicted an earlier statement made by Mr. Haney that deleted emails would be produced. When I pressed for the emails, I was told I was on a fishing expedition and the emails were backed up $100 for the district to search the backups. If a district employee deletes a public record prior to the 3 years the state requires it to be kept, the public should not be on the hook to pay to get that record produced. This creates distrust in the system. I've spoken extensively with Osmondbend of the state, and she agrees that any reasonable person would question the validity of a grandma search if deleted emails are not searched. I think that the district is opening itself up to into not being in compliance with the state laws by not requiring emails to either not be deleted or by not maintaining an easier way to search deleted emails. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. We have Heather Dupay and then Justin Peck.
Good evening. My name is Heather Dupay. I am both a parent of an Eastmont and a Park Lane child, and I also work as a behavioral assistant in Park Lane. So I have the absolute honor of working with a lot of these kids every day. But I also get to see both sides of how these schools impact our kids, both from working inside and going from kindergarten all the way to 6th grade now with my oldest. There was a article in the New York Times in February 2026 about how smaller class sizes are better for students. And at this point, I know kind of combining a lot of these schools in this sort of Walmart business model of bigger schools and bigger classes, I'm not really sure what that looks like, especially because my oldest at least is on the autistic spectrum. For me, that really worries me of what is that going to look like? End of the day, I know that my time is short, but the decisions we make now will echo across generations. It's not going to affect just my kids. It's going to affect their kids and their kids' kids. It's going to affect generations. And so I ask you to please reconsider at least some of this with these combining of a lot of these big things and not closing Park Lane, especially for 4 years before tearing it down and then rebuilding it. Please help us at least keep some of these kids together for as long as possible, because at least for me as a parent and as an employee, having a school sit there for 4 years really concerns me. But end of the day, all I can ask is you guys to just really sit and consider, because it's a quick decision, you know, but it has a lasting consequence. So thank you very much for all of your time.
Okay, thank you. Justin Peck and then Brianne DeNoyer.
Hey everyone, my name is Justin Peck. Thanks for allowing me to speak to you tonight. I just wanted to take time. I'm actually super new to the area. Me and my wife and family moved into the Park Lane community about 3 months ago. We currently have a second grader, so started attending Park Lane mid-year, which coming from a parent standpoint is super challenging, right? Starting your kid at a new school it's pretty difficult, and I can attest, week one when we started, there was an event in Park Lane. It was the Inside Out movie night. I think this is a huge deal, right? Is it we showed up, there was the whole gymnasium, the whole cafeteria was full, right? The whole community was there. There was kids running around, everyone is having a great time. That's the one thing that I can attest that I think it's kind of crazy, moving in from I was in a school that my kid didn't really thrive, you know what I mean? He was kind of struggling to make friends. He didn't have friends over to the house all the time, and we move up to Park Lane and there are kids around. They're out riding their bikes, they're riding to school, they're going to their friends' houses after school, and changing this can make a huge difference on their friendships, their relationships, what they're doing. Obviously switching schools can be very challenging too. I think it's crazy moving in and realizing that a school that's truly thriving, it has community support, it has people that are there showing up for their kids and showing up for their community, that this school is closing. That seems insane to me, honestly. I don't really get it, and obviously super late coming into this, so I know that there's a lot of other financial factors and a lot of other decisions that are being made, and I know that it's not an easy decision, but I wanted to take the time just to give my experience with a new kid in the community, and just taking that into consideration going forward would be huge. So thanks for your time. Appreciate you guys.
Okay, thank you. Brianne DeNoyer, and then PJ Mannion.
Hi, this is my daughter. She's a second grader at Park Lane. And while her day-to-day is centered around the inside workings of her classroom, I work in a field called professional change management. We help to make sure that large groups of people impacted by big changes get the information that they need to adapt. And we start with one main principle, and that's making sure that our impacted audiences understand what's in it for them. If our stakeholders don't understand how a change benefits them, they will resist it. And we are seeing the effects of that now. I think our community needs to hear more and requires a top-down vision from the district, one that doesn't just include closing elementary schools, but an example of that vision might be an updated district-wide boundary map with 5-year population projections for all schools, and a plan to unify the communities around strong curriculum and opportunities that come from these changes. What new classes can be added or equipment can be funded because of the changes that we know that we need to make. I would love to see the funds proposed for rebuilding Park Lane used to expand academic opportunities within our current buildings. Might not be a popular opinion, but it's an option. Recently, Ms. Nybar spoke about low-tech classrooms, and I'm all for it. This is the part of the future that parents want to hear. We want to imagine the classrooms that our kids are going to walk into are supported with training and technology and materials, and they create that lasting learning environment. I'm also confident that volunteers within our community are willing to help. In change management, a volunteer group is often called a change network, and it embeds communication and changes from within the community. This ensures that people feel supported and that change is happening with them, not to them. This reflects how many of us have felt these last 6 months. I'd like to ask you to fund an unbiased third-party exploration of the district's future. We need to undo the confusion, the division, and the unclear strategy. Please help us ensure that her and her next 10 years in Canyon School District is not a ping pong from school to school to school. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. PJ Mannion, then Brianne England.
Good evening. I'm here as a parent and a member of the Park Lane, Eastmont, and Jordan communities, and like many others, I'm trying to make sense of a process that has continued to shift over the past 10 months. Plans have changed, proposals have been revised, timelines have been extended, and while I understand that complex decisions require flexibility, the experience for families has been something very different. It's been instability. Over the past year, families have been asked to adjust again and again without clear direction on what final outcomes will be, and when stability disappears, something predictable happens. Families begin to look elsewhere. In trying to stabilize enrollment, the current process risks destabilizing the very foundation it depends on, community trust. And that concern only grows when we look at decisions being made in parallel. Today there was a letter that outlines a proposal to move forward with an additional $29.3 million investment into the Canyons Innovation Center, this coming after a $50 million purchase of a move-in ready building, I'm not here to challenge the value of that investment, but from a community perspective, it raises an important question. How are priorities being determined and how are resources being allocated across the district? Because right now the level of clarity and decisiveness in some areas stands in contrast to the uncertainty families are experiencing in the boundary process, and at times that feels uneven. There's also a critical point within boundary change proposal from today that deserves more attention. While the number of students being taken from Eastmont and Jordan to Albion Brighton may appear small, even a change of 25 students between Eastmont and Jordan represents the equivalent of a teaching position. That's not insignificant. That's opportunity for programs, for staffing, and for students, which raises another question. If small shifts can create meaningful impact, why are we moving towards permanent closures before giving these adjustments time to work? Why not slow space for thoughtful incremental change? Why not observe how these smaller interventions affect the system before making irreversible decisions? The district has clearly stated its values: building public trust through transparency, acting with integrity, collaborating for optimal student outcomes, and ensuring fiscal accountability. These are strong values, but many families are asking, where are these values showing up in this process? This proposal is not urgent. So if we have the time, the question becomes, why not use it fully? Why not adjust boundaries to see if it affects enrollment? Why not allow feeder patterns to stabilize before making structural changes? Why not ensure that decisions are clearly grounded in data that families can see and understand? Because once communities are disrupted, once families leave, it's very difficult to rebuild that. Our community has been patient, we've been engaged.
Your time is up, if you could finish, thank you. Okay, Brianne England, and then Kinley Garfield.
Hi, good evening, members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. On behalf of the Raintree neighborhood, we would like to express our appreciation and support for the boundary change proposal that will take place tonight that would allow our kids to feed from Albion Middle School into Brighton High School. For many years, long before this boundary study ever began, our community has expressed the disconnect in our feeder path and fought for this exact change. Our kids have attended the same elementary and middle school, building friendships, support systems, and a strong sense of belonging. However, at the high school level, our neighborhood was split, sending our students to a different high school than the friends they had grown up with. Having to rely on the permit system to attend Brighton High School has been challenging for many of our families. The uncertainty of not knowing where they would go to high school or having to attend a high school where they don't know anyone has been stressful for our kids during an already challenging time in their lives. This change helps bring back continuity for our kids. More than anything, this decision supports community. Throughout this reboundary process, one of the most consistent themes spoken about from Granite and Park Lane has been the importance of keeping communities together. This change reflects that priority, which was stated on your boundary study website from the beginning of this process. We are grateful that you have listened and recognized the importance of keeping our school community together and feeder system consistent for our kids and families. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Okay, thank you. Kinley Garfield, then Jake Garfield.
Good evening. I'm speaking tonight, frankly shocked about tonight's upcoming proposal. On slide 3, you proposed reducing permits for Willow Canyon preschool students to stay for kindergarten, so Park Lane's student body can move in. For the past year, families have raised concerns about the feeder system and asked for permit caps at Brighton and Albion. We've been told it's illegal, but Utah law is clear. Schools are only open if they're below about 90% capacity. Once they're full, permits can be denied. School choice does not mean forced overcrowding or crippling other schools. Brighton's capacity is 2,500 students. Currently, they're at 2,450, which is about 98% capacity. We're told to be patient, that plans are coming to strengthen Eastmont and Jordan. Yet, before we see any of that, you propose expanding boundaries for an already overcapacity school. So I have a different perspective than the former speaker, but why not direct this neighborhood to Park Lane, Willow Canyon, or to Eastmont and Jordan? It wouldn't solve everything, but it would be a push more toward balance. And I have nothing against doing a grandfathering. Why can't the families that are there currently be grandfathered into Albion and Brighton? I don't think that those kids should have to switch over immediately. But it doesn't make sense to move that neighborhood there when Jordan and Eastmont are dying. We've been promised that we're going to have boundary changes to help those schools. And the very first boundary change we're seeing is to take students away from Eastmont and Jordan. Please explain that to me. You've likely noticed that Park Lane seems like we're never happy, while Granite seems pretty happy now, despite losing their building. That's because, while they've lost their building, they have a great future ahead of them in terms of their middle and high school. They have resources, they have funding, they have students. We're losing our building, and you're destroying our middle school and high school. So, frankly, I never thought I'd say this, but we are looking into other options if this path continues forward, and we are not alone in our situation. So I hope that you can reverse course before doing significant damage to the population there. Thank you.
Okay, Jake Garfield, then Sarah Mannion.
Good evening. So I love living in this part of the valley. I think most people do. But there's some real unfortunate socioeconomic and racial disparities between the east side neighborhoods and the west side neighborhoods. And having those inequities, it lowers the quality of life for everyone that lives in the school district area. If there's any group of people that should be working to bridge those boundaries, bring people together, it's the school district, it's the Board of Education. And that's what, there's a long history of schools doing that across America and across Utah, bringing people from different backgrounds, different socioeconomic groups into the same schools. So that's why I was so shocked, appalled really, to see a proposal from the Long Range Planning Committee that is doing the opposite. It is reinforcing the socioeconomic and oftentimes racial divisions that we already have in our neighborhoods, taking a a high-income area of Jordan and putting into Brighton's boundaries. Brighton is already the largest school in the district. Jordan is by far the smallest. As of October, there were 793 more students at Brighton than there are in Jordan. This is the time for the board to be doing the opposite, to be finding ways to bringing more students into Jordan boundaries. We need those students, we need those resources. I have 4 kids, all of them will be going to Jordan High School. I was excited for a boundary study from the district to actually rearrange boundaries to make our high schools more equitable, to redistribute resources in a way that brings Jordan up to the same level as Alta, Corner Canyon, and Brighton. And I would like all of the board members who are supportive of this proposal to explain to us tonight how you can justify supporting taking more resources away from Jordan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sarah Mannion, and then Shannon Herbert.
Hi, Justin Peck, you're my son's new baseball coach. I love that you showed up into this Parkland community and are just jumping right in. It's a really awesome place to be, and I appreciate you teaching first graders baseball. I moved my kids to Park Lane from an amazing private school across the valley for one reason: community, and it has not disappointed. I promise you that. Such communities are invaluable, and you know what you do with valuable things? You protect them. I can and will talk until I'm blue in the face about the fantastic experiences my kids have and are having at Park Lane, Eastmont Middle, and Jordan High School. I can tell you how all my kids are safe, they are happy, and they are thriving. But you know what? The frustrating part for me is that it won't matter. I cannot accomplish equal opportunity or systemic change. I'm not sitting in one of those seats. I cannot accomplish these things when district level decisions continue to undermine the thriving of my feeder. Recent announcements, unnecessary portables, and neighboring middle schools. It is getting really hard to feel like it's not Canyon's district where your voice matters if you live in certain neighborhoods. Canyon's district where access to the arts is a priority if your child's at a certain school. Board members, you state often and repeatedly that Eastmont and Jordan matter to you and that they're amazing schools. I hear you say it all the time, publicly and personally. So take action. Do something. Do something to demonstrate that you mean what you say. Don't close elementary schools in my feeder until you present comprehensive data on Eastmont and Jordan boundary solutions. These kids are just as deserving. Show my kids that their voices matter as much as the kids the next neighborhood over and the kids across the valley. Thank you so much for the time.
Okay, thank you. Shannon Herbert, then Jared Herbert.
Hello.
Is the green light on?
Oh, there it is. Okay, sorry. As I reviewed the slides for tonight's presentation, I noticed that you list preserving the Eastmont-Jordan feeder pattern as a benefit of Proposal B. But why? The current boundaries are weak and unbalanced. Proposal A will further weaken them by shifting students out of Jordan and into Brighton. Preserving boundaries that are killing our secondary schools is not a benefit. Please ask yourself whether this proposal is worth the cost. This process has damaged a once trusted relationship with an entire community and created a 4 square mile educational void on the east side of Sandy. I don't need a rebuild of Park Lane. In the past, I have supported it because I can tell that that's what the board wants. Okay, if there was a rebuild anywhere, of course I would want it to be in Park Lane, but I don't need a rebuild. I love our weird little school. When I went there in the 1980s, I started kindergarten at Park Lane in 1984, and it was the open classroom model. I was there before it was remodeled, and it's still a lovely school. It's the center of our community. I don't need a rebuild. I'm fine with a remodel, fix the AC, whatever you need to do, but we just want to keep our school. We just want to keep our community. Yes. And I also have to say that I love when we moved back to this neighborhood after years of living away, I love the small school model that we moved into with Clayton. It is very appealing for families. The idea of my kids being in smaller schools with smaller class sizes, let Canyons be the one that's different, that offers families small schools. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Jared Herbert, then Taylor Burhow.
Good evening. I'm hoping you can help me figure a few things out. Help me understand why we would realign boundaries in a way that would place more students into already overcrowded schools instead of strengthening the schools you've identified needing enrollment. Help me understand why the Raintree neighborhood is assigned to the granite boundary rather than to Park Lanes, effectively ignoring the natural boundary line at 9400 South. Help me understand why the Quail Hollow, Albion, Brighton boundary line comes all the way over to 9800 South, just 0.2 of a mile from Park Lane. Help me understand why major decisions are moving forward while key elements are still listed as for study. Help me understand why I would want to keep my children in this district when the middle and high school feeder, Eastmont and Jordan, are facing significant declines in enrollment, and there doesn't appear to be a clear plan to address that or prevent future closures. At this point, we are looking at alternative, more stable options outside of Canyons for our children's education. Sorry. Because we need something more predictable, and from where we're standing, the only thing that's been consistent in this process is uncertainty. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Taylor Burhow, and then Jeanette Knight.
Ooh, got shocked. Hello.
Are you guys sick of hearing from us? Because I'm honestly so sick of being here. I work full time. I'm in my 3rd trimester. Like, honestly, I just want to be home watching reruns of The Pit. I don't want to be here. But here we are because over the last 10 months, all I have heard from the board consistently from each of you is that you want to prioritize their feeder system, because that's been my biggest concern as a prospective patron. And the time for like proving that, I think, is up. I mean, it has been 10 months, you guys. I sent an email this morning to each one of you. I have sent a number of emails, and only 2 of you and 3 of you as of this morning, Ms. Pedersen, thank you, have responded to me. I would respectfully request that each of you respond to my email. But I can sum it up with one simple premise, which is, what is the plan for the feeder system? You keep saying there's a plan, you keep saying that's the plan, like, that's the priority. What is it? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Jeanette Knight.
After picking up my 1st grade daughter from Park Lane today, we had to run an errand and we drove right past Park Lane again. And she just looked out the car window and said, "Park Lane is so fun, Mom." And so that's why I'm here again tonight, because I'm fighting for her and for this amazing community. I just want to give you a little bit of background. I know that we keep saying walkability is so important. My home would be, in the new proposal, considered one of the 100 walkable homes. It's 1.4 miles away, so we just barely missed that cutoff for busing. That would take my daughter 35 to 40 minutes to walk to school. The walking routes are not safe. There are no walking routes. Multiple busy intersections, no crossing guards, no realistic path that I would ever feel comfortable putting her on alone. My husband and I both work full time. Oftentimes walking home is her only option to get home. I work from home so she can come home to me, but I'm in meetings. I can't make it to pick her up or to walk with her home. Willow Canyon's proposed start time of 9 o'clock simply will not work for our work schedules either. I don't think we're unique. I think there are a lot of 2-income families within this boundary, and when the math doesn't work out, the commute, the start time, the safety, families, they're not just gonna figure it out, they're gonna leave. Don't want to leave, and so I ask you to keep those things in consideration. I know that requesting cross guards is really difficult, and it's a timely process. And so think about the safety of this walkability that you are suggesting for this new proposal. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That is the end of patron comments, and thank you everyone who has taken time to address the board tonight, and thank you for being here. We are now going to go on to the consent agenda, and I will now take a motion, and please read all the items and realize that it goes all the way to item O on the back side.
I move that we approve the consent agenda with item A, approval of minutes for March 3rd, 2026. Item B, approval of minutes for closed session March 10, 2026. Item C, approval of minutes for Granite Elementary public hearing March 10, 2026. Item D, approval of minutes for closed session March 12, 2026. Item E, approval of minutes for March 19, 2026. Item F, approval of hire and termination reports. Item G,
You skipped item F.
No, item.
Approval of minutes for Park Lane. You skipped that. I heard.
Oh, it's not online then. So we'll go off. I've got my printed copy then.
You're on item F. And then G is termination. Yeah.
Okay. Item F, approval of minutes for Park Lane Elementary public hearing, March 19, 2026. Item G, approval of hire and termination reports. Item H, approval of purchasing bids. Item I, approval of February financial reports. Item J, approval of 2026-2027 proposed bell schedule. Item K, approval of TSSP and land trust amendment for Willow Canyon Elementary. Item L, approval of TSSP and land trust amendment for Alta View Elementary. Item M, approval of Canyons Innovation Center Phase 2 renovations. Item N, approval of TSSP and land trust amendments for East Sandy Elementary. Item O, approval of a USBE waiver for digital literacy.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, is there any discussion? I do think that's the longest consent we've ever had. In 12 years, I'm just saying, in 12 years. Okay, no discussion? Okay, I will now call for a vote. All in favor of all the consent agenda items, please say yes. Yes.
Aye.
Aye. I tricked you guys anyway. Okay, that motion passes unanimously. Okay, now we're on to new business, and that is item A, which is Long Range Planning Committee. This is second reading, and there can be possible action on a second reading, and Leon Wilcox, Business Administrator, will present this.
Thank you, President Schill. Go over again our proposal, second reading. Just want to recap our public hearings that we had on March 10th at Granite Elementary and the 19th at Park Lane. Appreciated everyone who came out to those. You can see the number who spoke in person at those. We also listed the number from the hearings we had last fall as well as those electronically. Trying to consolidate the key themes that we had in both were from Granite, keeping the EEC together, not feeder pattern from Granite, Albion, Brighton, which it is now. Again, if we rebuild Quell Hollow, at the Quell Hollow site, they do not want to move down to Quell Hollow, then back to Granite, then back down to Quell Hollow, so limit that moves. One of the things we've heard a lot of from both Park Lane and Granite communities was that foothold in the East Sandy Elementary and concerns about class size. Park Lane, the foothold in East Sandy and also the class sizes, the last bullet there. The calls for pausing on the possible consolidation until we can begin the rebuild at Park Lane on the Park Lane site. Secondary feeder alignment, desire for more holistic review of the feeders pattern from Eastmont, mainly for the Eastmont and Jordan feeders. And then we also heard about possibly rebuilding Willow Canyon on the Park Lane site because of the more flatter surface terrain there. Heard many other comments, but those were ones that we felt like somewhat of an overriding theme there. Just to look at the Willow Canyon and Park Lane at the Willow Canyon building. Again, we see these relatively stable populations, both around 270 students. That's general ed students. We see that for the next few years out there. Using our staffing ratio, again, looking at we staff kindergarten through first, second, and third grade at roughly 22 students per teacher. That's how we staff. Now, they don't always come in blocks of that. We all know that. And then in fourth and fifth grade, it's 26 students per teacher. Again, you always have that variance because, of how many students we have. Just to recap the Willow Canyon building, it has 26 available classrooms. So based on this formula, how we see the population, they'd need 23 gen ed classrooms and 23 ACC classrooms. That would take the 26. Now, they have the Wildcat room. That's been used as a classroom many times throughout its history. That would be a 27th. If we had the two brain boosters, they'd have Playworks and media. They would stay in their respective places. But the arts and the STEM, we'd have to look at moving in portables for them. Again, one of them could go into the Wildcat room, but we'd probably look at two portables so they'd both, just not one would be out there by themselves. We could also look at carts. We do have brain boosters on carts. That's the less preferred method, but the preferred would be the portables. It has been mentioned, you know, Willow Canyon receives a lot of permits for kindergarten because there's some daycares, child care centers around there. We don't want to do that, but we could look at restricting permits if we wanted to. Most of those kids do stay at Willow Canyon through their elementary years. You know, then some will go to Eastmont, but others will go back to more of their home boundary, if you will. Oops, going the wrong way there. Looking at the Quail Hollow, so again, the Granite Quail Hollow merger. You know, Quail Hollow is a newer building, so it's a little bit larger than the Willow Canyon building. It has 27 classes. Based on our formula and how we projecting enrollments, they would need 22 general ed classes, and that's 3 for the EEC. So they would have room there. It should be noted that if you look there, I'll point to it here, you know, Granite has an outlier, I will say, of a 3rd grade class of 65 students, where after those who go to Lone Peak, we see that dropping a few down around 63 when they're in 5th grade there. Going on to Albion, that would free up another class or 2 as well. So we do feel comfortable about there. Quail Hollow already has a portable for their theater program. We intend to keep that there, but we would not need any more portables there. In fact, we always said that we'd probably have to move the preschools out, but we're looking at being able to keep 2 of the 3 preschools there on site. So that would work well for us there. Again, we always like to see those grades in that 70 to 100 range. That gives us 3 classes per grade if we can get it, or 4. Those are, again, our preferred numbers. One of the things that was brought up is, could we look at rebuilding Quail Hollow on site, and what would that look like? So we asked one of our architects that we work with to look at this possibility. They gave us 2 options. I want to emphasize, when you design a program out of school, it's about a 6-7 month process in elementary school. You know, we asked them to do this in about 10 days to 2 weeks. So keep in mind, as far as lining up rows and everything like that, that will come in time. But the main thing is, could we rebuild Quail Hollow on site? And the answer is yes. We always like to have a clean site, but you can, you know, we've rebuilt a handful of schools, Butler, Mid-Valley, Altaview, all on site with students there. It's challenging, but it can be done. And the answer is there. You can see where the existing building is, where the new building was proposed. That would be an repeat of Altaview Elementary. Then you can see, once the new building's up, we'd knock down the old building, put in parkings and play fields there. That is, again, one option. This is a second option. This is actually a building that was just a school that was just built in Salt Lake City School District. This is a bigger school. It would have 800 to 900 capacity. I don't know if we want to go that big. It's probably around 36, 38 classrooms. But you can see how that lines up. You could take the other building and also put that there too, or do various designs. But the bottom line is, and you can see how that would line up once the play fields and parking lot is done. The bottom line is, the answer is yes, you can rebuild on the Quail Hollow side if you wanted to proceed with that. Again, there's more options we could look at, but again, we just asked them to give us 2 in a short amount of period of time. I'm going to stop there. There's 3 kind of areas we're hit tonight. That was the first one, okay? So I'm going to move to area 3, if you will. And this is one that we've heard tonight. And this is one that we've debated really all year long on long ranges, and that's the Jordan feeder system. We know that needs to be addressed, but also keeping communities together. And so that would be this Raintree area. Currently, and for the last 13, 14 years, or even longer, they've been part of the Granite Elementary community, and then also Albion. But then they go our boundary to Jordan High. You know, all these boundaries were created before any of us got here. So that's part of the dealing issues that we deal with. It's, you know, it's a generational thing now. As we debated that, we looked at, you know, the Jordan feeder and the community, both. And so our recommendation, you know, again, this is just a recommendation from the committee, is to align this with the Brighton feeder system. You can see the number of middle school students there. Again, they are all boundaried for Albion. You can see the majority attend Albion. You're always going to have a few go to other schools for various reasons. Same with high schools. Majority do attend or do permit into Brighton. Again, they'd have to permit in. We do have, you know, a handful who go down to Jordan High. We looked at the busing situation there, and this is one of the we have two bus routes that go up in that area. You can see Raintree area here, Park Lane here, then there's another bus route that we don't show down in this area here. But in the Raintree area on that bus, we have 83 students assigned. You know, if you look at high school students, it's always a little bit of a wild card how many actually ride the bus. There are around 25 who ride at home, more say, even fewer number than that who ride it to school because of the early time that it starts. But if we wanted to, we could look at continuing to run that through there for a couple years. We always get nervous doing a long-term commitment, but as these kids finish out, we could run it through there. These would also be eligible for busing over to Brighton as well. But I'm not convinced students attend Jordan. I think they attend Jordan for other reasons besides the transportation, just, you know, based on that only 25 or so ride the bus in that whole area. Again, that's just not the Raintree, but that would be that whole route that picks up students in the Park Lane area. So that again is our recommendation. The board can do as it will. It would need to stay in place for next school year. So this would be a change for the 27-28 school year, if you would. Then I want to change to the third topic, if you will, and that's looking at our school, the aging elementary schools, and that we're trying to confront here on an ongoing basis. You know, we have 13 elementary schools that are 50 years old or older. I'm counting Bella Vista in that. Another 6 in that 45 to 49 years. I mean, there was this big population boom back in the 60s and 70s. We all know that. Subdivisions went up in a hurry and schools went up with them. You know, if we looked at rebuilding these, this is about a 20 to 25 year undertaking to do this. And so we're trying to look at how to do this in the best way possible to benefit the most community members that we can. We have limited money in our ongoing small caps, you know, 6 to 8 million, where we can look at carpet and HVAC systems and parking lots. Again, would also have to go towards our high schools and our middle schools as well. And also just the utilization of those schools. So, you know, we're trying to work on solutions with limited dollars, and knowing that there's a need, we've taken an undertaking, and since we've been a district in 17 years, to want to look at our middle schools first, and then our high schools with our last bond with rebuilding Brighton and Hillcrest, and then issuing lease revenue bonds for the improvements made at Jordan High that are ongoing right now. Here's the list of the schools that are 50 plus years old. Again, what we've done is projected the FCI, what they look like, what the FCI would be in 2028. Again, that's always a little subjective there because, you know, things, you know, just like our homes that are a little bit older, things can break quicker, if you will. So you can see the school in the year. I'm not going to go down each one. Again, I did count Bella Vista on this list, so we have 13, 12 if you don't count that. East Midville, a little bit of a higher FCI score. Again, that came on the same year I did. I need a lot of work, and it needs a lot of work, so we'll just leave it at that. And the other schools there, again, we mentioned Willow Canyon, 1974. You can see the FCI score there. Ridgecrest we've talked about. That's the highest one, came in 1967. Again, you can do lots of remodeling, we've done that, but you're still somewhat dealing with that aging building. Sandy being our oldest school, built in 1951.
Okay, Mr. Wilcox, sorry to interrupt. Can you explain what FCI is? I think all the parents here know because you guys have been here so much. But people who might be listening may, because we've gotten some emails and they're like, what is FCI? So can you explain?
FCI is Facility Condition Index. It's a scoring where we go in, our facilities people go in and assess the building and the site. And so that can include parking lots, that can include ADA access, that can include carpet inside, that can include the doors and the locking security doors. That can, a big one is the HVAC system, both the chiller and the boilers. We have different systems in many of our schools that age. The carpet is a big one. The millwork is another one. How the office is set up can be one. And just the size of the classrooms will also factor into that. So there's about a dozen different factors that go into that, and we come to a composite score. It's like golf. The lower the FCI, the better condition the building is, the higher is, the more work that is needed. It should be said that with all our schools, every one of them are seismic. We have gone through and done that. Those schools that we chose to rebuild, one of the leading factors was they were not reinforced masonry. All these are. It should be said that all of code in the 1975 seismic code is much different now in the 2020s. So there's more required reinforcement now than it was some 55 years ago when these schools were built. But they all have that, but they all, need some work. We sometimes get a little like golf, one stroke matters, but in FCI, it gets a little subjective, and there's not a whole lot of difference between one that's in the 70s and one that's in the 80s. They both need improvements, and so that should be noted there. These are the schools that are in that 40 to 49 year range. Altera, Crescent, Park Lane's one of them. Quail Hollow, another one that we looked at. Silver Mesa, Sprucewood. All these came in that boom in the late 70s, early 80s. You can see their FCI is there still needing work. Then just a little historical perspective. Then Jordan District took a break. And then they did not build another school till Lone Peak came on in '86. So the last one there, the oldest ones prior to that was Crescent and Quail Hollow in '81. Then they did not come on until there was more of a boom in Draper area with Oak Hollow and Willow Springs coming on. And then since we've been a district, we've rebuilt 6 of those schools. So you see 28 current elementaries, 27 next year with the Ridgecrest and Bella Vista merger. So just quickly going over the proposal, combining Granite, Quail Hollow in the Quail Hollow building, starting in the 27, 28 year. You can see that we've gone over the number of students there. EEC staying the same. Want to emphasize this section up here. We've included the Bell. There's a new subdivision up there called Bell Canyon. And the way that aligns, it's about 10 or 12 homes. The way that aligns better with the Granite feeder than coming down to Park Lane. So we have put that into Granite. So I'll put it up it's up in this area here, okay? Again, we've gone over the classrooms and everything there. Proposal B, Park Lane, consolidating with Willow Canyon in the Willow Canyon building. You can see the FCI scores. It should be stated that we intend to rebuild Park Lane on the Park Lane site. Again, we want to keep that strong presence in the East Sandy area. as far east as we can go mainly for the Eastmont and the Jordan feeder systems. Again, we didn't put the slide here, but we showed it last time. It's one of those that are under consideration that we'd like to start, if everything holds according to plan, in 2029 is when we'd put a shovel in the ground, if you would, and it open in 2031. And more information on that, these slides are just carried over from our first proposal that way. So with that, that's all I have. Happy to take any questions, comments.
Okay, board, are there any questions or comments? Mrs. Nywar.
First off, I want to thank Leon for this presentation. He put so much time and effort into this, and a lot of what he presents is a reflection of the committee that he works with. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "The ultimate measure of a leader is not where they stand in moments of comfort and convenience, but where they stand at times of challenge and controversy." I don't know that anything describes better what we've undergone in the last 10 months than this is a time of challenge as we face declining enrollments and we have faced controversy. Right now, our district is facing declining enrollment in all our elementary schools. It is not concentrated in one or two areas. There are many reasons for this, as has been mentioned throughout this process: affordability of housing for young families to buy, a declining birth rate, competition for alternative schooling systems, and even changing demographics. This last 10 months, we've considered a consolidation between Park Lane and Willow Canyon. Well, at first the proposal was different, but now it's Willow Canyon. Although this process has been difficult, I am certain it is the path of least resistance in comparison to looking at a system-wide approach where boundaries could be redrawn. I know what happens down the road of the path of least resistance personally. It is not a peaceful place to be. It is not where we want to be as a district, because eventually you have to face the true problem. There is unnecessary collateral damage that occurs when you keep kicking the can down the road. It is so hard to do hard things. The shakeup is tumultuous, but it is also the space where opportunity opens up for growth. Our community has spoken clearly. They are asking for a system-wide approach that strengthens our feeder systems rather than weakens them. I agree. When the market changes, successful organizations adapt. To address the real challenges of housing affordability, declining birth rates, changing demographics, and competition from other school systems, I believe we should pivot toward a three-pronged strategy. First, innovation, piloting specialized programs in our elementary schools to increase personalized hands-on learning curriculums. This may include the development of low-tech classrooms, personalized learning opportunities tailored specifically for both our advanced learners and those who need extra help. Second, system-wide planning, implementing a district-wide review, including potential boundary shifts, as suggested by the Long-Range Planning Committee, to shore up our schools, their feeder systems, and stabilize shifting demographics. And third, collaboration, working together with our parents, families, and faculty so everyone feels like a valued part of this system. I want to be clear, I'm not proposing or promising there will be no future school consolidations or closures. However, I believe this comprehensive path ensures that there will be no unnecessary closures, and it protects our students from the instability of being moved multiple times within just a few years. In fairness to our families who already are planning for next year, I believe we owe them clarity tonight rather than waiting until May. This community has spoken, and you have been heard. I hear you. I believe this is our next right step. I invite all of my fellow board members, with all the respect I hold for each of them, in their capacities as diligent elected public servants who are smart and so capable and fully invested in our students and families, to consider what I've just said. If you do not agree with me, I absolutely respect your decision. We each need to be leading out according to the dictates of our own conscience. But I would like to make a motion. I move that the board terminates the proposal to move Park Lane into Willow Canyon and then proceeds forward with the rest of the proposal concerning Granite, which would push it to May.
Okay, board, we have a motion. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Okay, we have We have a motion and a second, and now there will be discussion to that motion. So who wants to speak? Mrs. Dolly.
Thank you. First of all, in discussion with that motion, I would make an amendment to that we push a vote on this until the third reading. As we know, we have a lot of Park Lane parents here. Willow Canyon is affected by such a change, and I think they need to be allowed time to comment on a change in the proposal before it is voted on.
Okay, can I stop you right there? So is that, so to the maker of the motion, do you accept that amendment, or should she do a substitute motion?
I do not accept that amendment.
Okay, so Katie, do you want to do a substitute motion?
I make a substitute motion that we postpone a vote on proposal B until the third reading.
Okay, so we have a substitute motion. Is there a second to that substitute? Well, sorry, not a substitute, it's a second motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have, well, she can make another motion once she wants. Okay, so we have a second motion and a second. So now discussion to that second motion.
I have a statement from Jackson Lewis that he sent to me, if I could read it.
Sure.
Jackson Lewis, who is traveling, sent the following. I believe taking a serious look at the entire system with the expectation that most boundaries will not significantly change is the best approach now. There will have to be increased sacrifice from parts of our district, especially parts that have become far too unaffordable for families with school-aged children in these adjustments and potential closures. But I believe taking the entire system into consideration and adjusting the entire system will lead to a result that is much more workable, functional, and long-lasting. This board needs to be making long-term planning decisions, and if we are not taking our entire system into consideration, we may create, or at the very least exacerbate, existing problems that will cause pain for our constituents in the future and pain for future boards and administrators. That being said, I do believe the Granite and Quail Hollow consolidation is appropriate at this time, while for the reasons I stated before, especially to prevent future enrollment problems in our East Minton Jordan feeder, I believe that Park Lane and Willow Canyon consolidation must be put off now for a greater system-wide approach to our boundaries. I wish I could be there tonight to more fully detail my thoughts. Let's see, and that notes to me. Please send feedback. This is the position I have arrived at and feel strong in this position. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then I just want to remind the board that with 6 people here, a 3-3 vote will be a failure. So just want to remind the board about that. And Jackson is not here to vote. So any other comments to that substitute motion? Mrs. Oaks.
Okay, so my comments are just kind of in general because there's a lot to swallow. It's a big presentation. We've gotten a lot of feedback from the public, both in person and tonight and in our last meeting at Park Lane, and also in emails. I mean, I was trying to keep up with all of the emails coming in. There's been a lot, right? You guys are a prolific community. I have been very impressed. And it speaks highly to the fact that you're very involved in your children's education. And so I commend all of you, and I can feel your passion and your concern. So there's a few things I'd like to talk about. And part of this addresses some of the repeated themes that have come up in emails. One is regarding funding pools. So there has been occasional reference to the discussion about our innovation center and keeping a school open. And I know we've mentioned this before, but I just want to clarify again. The pools of money that we are allowed to pull from to fund certain things have to be very delineated and very separate. That is lined out by state law. So you cannot take capital funds that are there to either build buildings or purchase buildings or renovate buildings and use it to fund teachers. So the cost differential of what we're looking at with schools that we subsidize to keep open, that funding is totally separate from capital funding. Does that make sense? And so when we spend $1 million more a year to keep an elementary that is too small open, that comes out of other schools' class sizes, other schools' abilities to provide certain services. It comes out of teachers. That FTE impacts the district as a system and also your community. I mean, this one reason why Granite Elementary teachers last year were here asking us for help and, you know, encouraging us to consolidate schools, because they had gotten to a point where they were so small that they couldn't provide certain services to their children anymore. This is quickly approaching for many schools, not just Park Lane or Willow Canyon. We received an email from another school community that hasn't hardly even been addressed through this whole process over the last year, just this week, saying that their population is also getting too small and it's putting an additional stress on their principal and being able to keep teachers. It's a large problem. Also, as part of that, I think it's important to remember some of what has been said is, if you close my school, I will go somewhere else where it's more stable. I thought that was an interesting thing, so I kind of reached out to, I did reach out to a number of board members. There's some of us that kind of meet in a committee from time to time to discuss issues in our district and get in our respective districts, get ideas from each other, share what our concerns are, talk about how we can support each other at the legislature, whatnot. So it represents board members from all over the state. And I said, how many of you are having to look at school consolidation? It's all of our surrounding districts. There's Provo School District is discussing it tonight. Murray School District is discussing it tonight. I don't want to, Granite has already had to close 7 schools, and they're looking at potentially closing 10 more. This is not an isolated Canyon School District problem, and I promise this is not something any of us wants. It brings me to another issue, and actually Nancy T., our former board president, weighed in on that discussion as well. She said, and this is something I agree with her, and I agree with many of you on, the desire to have smaller classrooms. I get it. That is absolutely something we would love to see too. However, that is a number that is actually fixed by the state legislature. And so when Nancy's point was, it's really unfortunate that with declining enrollment that the state legislature is not taking the opportunity to decrease class sizes by way of funding, because we obviously have the space with buildings, but they're not. And what that means is when we don't have a certain number of students for the classroom sizes that they have designated as appropriate, we lose funding to where we can no longer appoint a teacher. So it's not, we aren't the ones who get to decide that number. I wish we were. So that's one aspect too. Another thing that came up in emails was the fact that Park Lane, there wasn't a discussion anymore on this proposal about Park Lane being rebuilt. And I reached out to members of the Long Range Planning Committee today to clarify or ask questions about that. And the answer was, it's not that it's no longer considered. We're just presenting this Quail Hollow possible rebuild because it's new information. As you've made mention, there's a lot of moving pieces. This is not an easy thing, and it's not, those on the Long Range Planning Committee actually have the heaviest lift of any of our board members this past year, and I want to express my gratitude to you guys. It's been a lot of work. I promise you, they are actively trying to look at this, but they can only, with various schedules, especially when those of us on the board work outside, like, it's very difficult to be able to coordinate schedules adequately. I promise you, every piece of information that comes available, we are providing that in our next available public meetings. And as I've mentioned before, this is the only time we can discuss things as a board legally, right? And so when you see us up here having those conversations, it's our first time. And yeah, it feels really wonky and awkward. This is not something that the business world has to deal with, and nor even the legislature. It's the strangest arrangement I've ever been a part of when it comes to actually discussing things. It's hard. In response also to some of the questions regarding Jordan and Eastmont, some of the emails that were sent in brought up an interesting point about the fact that perhaps we should limit neighboring high schools to a 90 or 95% enrollment at cap. I would be very open to that and would ask that our long-range planning folks take a look at that. I think it's fair and wise probably to consider that. I know all of those respective schools are probably going to fall below that within a few years, so it would be interesting to look at the population projections, but I think that that's fair from my personal perspective. I also would support the idea of looking at lower tech classroom options, and maybe what we do is a survey and ask parents, because that has been expressed in other areas of the district, not just in yours, of parents who would be willing to drive their kids. I mean, that's not something that we would be able to provide transportation for, but perhaps they'd be willing to drive their kids to a school that provided that. I think it's probably time for us to start taking a serious look and getting some feedback from parents across the district about how many of them would like that. I'm personally a parent that probably would have been very interested in that. Those are primarily the issues that I wanted to address before voting, but I also think in all fairness to when we look at all of our different elementary school communities, I had not considered the fact that Willow Canyon, hasn't had a chance to respond to a potential elimination of this plan, because they are one of the schools that have come to us and said, our enrollment's declining, we're losing the ability to do certain things, in all fairness, I do think that we probably need to extend this to a third reading for that reason. I am leaning on the side of approving proposal A and maybe tabling proposal B in order to be able to have a larger, wider discussion about boundaries. But for the time being, I think it's appropriate for us to wait for another reading to have an official vote.
Okay. Who else wants to speak? I know Mr. Edel wanted to, but Karen, do you want to go first, or?
Whoever hasn't spoken yet.
Yeah, whoever's. Yeah, Mr. Edel then.
All right, so I'll start by acknowledging the Park Lane community. I understand your desire to maintain a neighborhood school. I understand how important your current community is, and I want you to know that that matters. At the same time, my role is to look at the system as a whole and to ensure that we have long-term stability across the district, and not just for one school, but across the entire system. I think what makes this conversation challenging is that we're really dealing with two issues that are connected but not identical. One of them is the enrollment challenges. So in this case, Willow Canyon has the more severe enrollment challenges, but we have enrollment challenges system-wide. The other is the ongoing enrollment challenges at especially Eastmont and with the Jordan feeder. And while this proposal, the proposal that was in the slides and not second proposal that was just brought up, helps address the elementary level issue, it doesn't fully resolve the broader challenges that we're trying to solve. I've heard the approach of addressing elementary schools first and secondary later, and I understand the intent with that, but I think in this case, those issues are more interconnected than the sequencing suggests. Decisions we make at the elementary level directly shape enrollment at Eastmont and Jordan. So if we treat them as separate phases, we risk making elementary decisions that don't actually support the long-term health of the feeder system. I also understand, and I hope that we can all come to an understanding that the proposal to merge Park Lane and Willow Canyon is largely driven by proximity from a geographic standpoint, and that makes sense. It's come up a number of times in the past about Why is Park Lane being targeted? And I've tried to explain it's about geography, and ultimately what we're trying to do is provide system-wide health with this. And so it's not singling someone out who shouldn't be. It just happens to be where everything is geographically as we look to address that. But if we're serious about long-term stability, then we need to address our overall boundaries. We need to look at our eastern and southern boundaries in a meaningful way. Right now, those conversations keep hitting walls. And as a result, the underlying issues remain unresolved. The concerns around the rebuild timeline are valid, and a clear path to address enrollment challenges at Eastmont is also real. These are central issues, they're not side issues. To solve the problems, we're going to have to make difficult decisions. Changing boundaries is hard. People will be unhappy. But avoiding these decisions doesn't solve the problem, it just pushes it forward. At the same time, we need to move toward more clearly defined plans for elementary rebuilds, which we've done a lot better on, as stability comes from making decisions, not delaying them. And I appreciate the explanation that was provided for why the elementary rebuilds weren't shown in the slides, but I do think that also is a core aspect that we're looking at with the overall plan that we need to look at. A strong Eastmont to Jordan feeder system is essential for the overall health of our district. We cannot support a system-wide secondary system that does not include Eastmont and Jordan. I would support broader boundary adjustments that balance enrollment across schools based on future projections, not just short-term fixes. To move toward long-term stability, we need to prioritize boundary changes that meaningfully balance enrollment across the system. Decisions around Park Lane should support that work and not drive it.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Dolly, do you want to go, or Mrs. Pedersen? Either one.
I'll go. Thank you, and thank you for being here tonight to share your concerns. We agree with you that small schools and small class sizes would be wonderful. The reality is our state doesn't fund it. In fact, we're one of the lowest funded in the entire United States. So I would encourage you to take this passion to also go to your legislatures and work with them on supporting and funding smaller class sizes. The reality is we're in a hard spot when it comes to funding for our annual operating, that it's to keep our small schools open. We're now having to decide, well, do we raise property taxes to cover that cost, or do we give our teachers a cost of living allowance? And so if we don't raise property taxes, we can't also give our employees cost of living things. And I'm not willing to not give employees cost of living increases. And so that's the reality of the situation we're in right now with keeping these small schools open. In this, the issue at hand, we've gotten a lot of emails of like, I don't understand the issue at hand and what the problem is. In this age of declining enrollment, we have lower funding. Over half of our funding is based on a per student basis. And so as our numbers keep dropping off, hundreds of students a year, because we have fewer kindergartners coming in to the number of graduating seniors, our budget continues to shrink. That means that we have fewer support services. If we keep small schools open, that means we don't have the support services in a time when we have students with more academic and more behavior needs. It also, when we talk about student inequities, it's a huge inequity when we're paying $4,000 more for a student at these small schools than a student at our average size school. And so what we're trying to address right now is trying to right size our schools, get our schools closer to 3 to 4 classes per grade, which is about 500 students on average, to support the long-term growth and the health of our schools, our elementary schools. Now, Granite is devastated. They're not thrilled about closing their school, but at the same time they understand, because they've felt the pain as they've moved down to 11 FTE and trying to manage fewer teachers and district having to supplement some of the things there to make things happen. And so they get it, because they know, even though this is a sacrifice, that moving to another school is going to be a stronger community for their students. They're going to have better balanced class sizes in the long term. Thank you.
Okay, Mrs. Pedersen?
I agree with a lot of what has been said tonight, so I won't repeat that kind of thing. But one thing that I have definitely felt, particularly from our open houses and also from our emails, is the exhaustion, the sheer exhaustion. To be honest, we feel it too. We're going, can we be done? I mean, we really, really are tired, all of us, of looking at the same thing over and over and over again. The difficulty is, as been mentioned by all the different factors that we've been looking at, is that it's not just the one little piece that we're looking at. It really is a system-wide problem. And I agree, we need to take time to really fill out a system-wide boundary change, not just piece. We can't tell you what we can do for Eastmont and Jordan because that affects other schools, and then they're gonna feel just exactly like you. So the only way that we can really do this effectively is we need the time, and next year was part of that time, to be able to really, truly, we may have to rip the Band-Aid off everybody and say, guess what? All the high schools get new boundaries, and all the middle schools that are gonna feed into it will be part of this. But you realize that's huge. It's huge. I know, it needs to be done. I agree with you, but it's huge, okay? And the stress and anxiety you have felt will be magnified district-wide, okay? And that's great because it's only going to affect you in your little piece, but it's really hard when we know that every community is going to have concerns. But we're not saying we aren't willing to do that. It needs to be done. It absolutely needs to be done, which is why this whole thing partially started to happen, is because we had schools that were to the point where they could not function and feel good about what they were providing for their students. And so this kind of started. And as it's gone, it's snowballed and snowballed and snowballed, and we can see that there's a lot that still needs to be considered. And I appreciate so much the different points of view of things that people have brought out. To be very honest, when we very first started, a lot of those issues we were not totally aware of. We really weren't, which is the whole idea. We knew we didn't know. We knew what we didn't know, which is a lot of things. And so we had to start somewhere. So I know this process has been painful. Sorry to be the first time through. It's kind of like your first child. You make all your mistakes on the first one, hopefully getting better with your next kids. But we're not going to make all our mistakes on you. It's not going to be a mistake. We want to do this right. So I support what I seconded, which is we just need to have one more meeting so that Willow Canyon feels fully included. They were very discontent with the fact that there was never an open house in their building. Of all the schools we've talked about, no one has been able to go or been invited to their school to show off. They have not had the same opportunities that you've had, which has been 2 open houses at Park Lane. So I really feel that it's not fair to make a decision without having their true input. I can guess what they would do, but I'm not them. My job is to have them tell me, not the other way around. So I support, I'm not saying that we can't postpone this. In fact, I'm thinking we definitely need to postpone it. Mrs. Nybar would like to end it completely. I think we just need to stretch it. I think something needs to be done, and in 2 years, 3 years from now, we say, you know what? It's not working out, and these are all the facts that we have now, and we're going to be doing this differently. But it doesn't change your life right now, and it won't for the next 2 or 3 years. A lot of you have kids that'll be out by then. Not all of you, but some of you, because that's just the nature of the beast. If we stop, then we have to do the consequences, which means we're not going to be able to fund everything. We're either going to have to hurt our teachers, or we're going to have to hurt our kids with their programs. And I don't want to hurt either one. I'd like to keep everything as positive as possible. I'm not saying we can't do new innovative programs, but we can't get those in place when we don't know who we're working with. Does that make sense? We can have ideas and have things ready, but even a new program doesn't start working 100% right away. That again is another process. That's just adding another layer of something that we have to work on. that we will have to develop. And I'm not saying we're not willing to do that. I think we should look at that, because long-term, our schools are going to need that. This is only the beginning, because we are looking, if we look out 5-10 years, yes, we're going to be able to restart our schools, but we aren't going to be able to rebuild all of them because we won't need all of them. Sorry to say. We just can't keep sustaining ourselves the way we have been for the past few years. What's happening in elementary, obviously, is going to flow into all of the middle schools, not just Eastmont. They're just feeling the pinch now. They're feeling like Granite did and have been for a long time. They've been suffering, and we need to do something about that. We just haven't found the right answer yet without going into other communities and creating a whole new proposal. Does that make sense? We're trying to end one proposal before we make the other. So it's not that we're not working on it. We are. We're looking at all sorts of factors, but the components are so complex. Do we have to move special programs? Are we going to, how many kids are permitting from one place to another? And if they change with their parents, change their permits. Kids aren't making those choices, the parents with their kids, of course, are. It'd be nice if we were all captive. I could move you around a lot easier, but we can't. We don't know, because we know parents are looking for the best placement for their students, which they should. But we want to make sure that every choice you have are exceptional choices. Not, I'm not going to go down there because this is this school is failing. We want you to be able to choose the best school for your family. Hopefully in your own community, that would be really helpful with us in planning our feeders. But it's such a big, there's days where we just shake our head and go, I don't even know where to start. But we do. We're working on it. We really, really are. Unfortunately, it isn't that's not the only job that we're working on. We do have to run the district right now and do the programs that we're doing with our kids right now, and we have to honor teachers and do these sports programs, and the world goes on, just like it does at your house. So we're working as hard as we can, as often as we can, and we do need more time. I agree with that. I have felt very much that moving too fast right now is a mistake. But I'm not sure we want to say that this is never on the books. You know what I mean? I'm just saying we may need to slow this down so that we get more time to really look at it and not have to do this discussion all the time. You know what I mean? Like, how about for months or a year? That we don't even have to discuss this problem, but that we could bring to you. Not that we want you to think it's a proposal, but if we could actually share information that people wouldn't jump on and say, but you can't do that because. It's just, sometimes we're really afraid. I don't know, I'm afraid sometimes to say things because I've learned from feedback I've gotten that whatever I say people think is fact, as in been decided. It hasn't. Sometimes I've been trying to ask questions of people out in the community, and then they think it's a proposal. It's just information, and then they get all upset. So you have to give us a little leeway that way too, and that's just my personal experience, that when I've tried to discuss it with some groups, that then the minute I make that conversational idea put it out there, it's now a proposal. It's just an idea. How do I get a feedback if I never ask? And yet I've had people jump on it to the point where I don't feel, believe it or not, I don't feel safe saying it because of the feedback I get from people attacking personally about some of the things that have been, ideas I may or may not have shared. So I would like some grace for you. I would like some space for you. I would love some space for us. And I do agree that we need to postpone it. But I do think we need to wait one more month just to make that final. Does that make sense? Because I really do think Willow Canyon deserves a say. We thought there might be more people here, but they're not. They're not enough. Does that make sense? We just feel like, thank you for being here. We just feel like we really need to hear from all of our communities. And we could almost tell you some of your facts verbatim. We've heard them so many times, I think we've got them memorized. And we go, and she's going to talk about that, and they're going to talk about that. Because we've heard you. We understand you. We're not brushing you off. So I appreciate going through this process with you. Has it been painful? Absolutely. She's over here going, I need another Diet Coke. It's been horrible, okay? But we're learning from it, all of us. And I don't see, as you have amply pointed out, that we need to have it done for next year. You know, we were going to give a transition year. It looks like we need a little more time than that. But we can't go too long because now you're going to push yourselves. If we let you ride, the consequences are going to happen. I don't know what and I don't know when. But if the enrollment keeps going down and the class, we can't provide what you expect, it's because we weren't able to consolidate sooner so that we could get money available to support those students more efficiently. Does that make sense? Because we're just maintaining what we have, and I'm not saying that's bad, because these are great schools, absolutely great schools. Sorry if I sounded like I was rambling, because I probably was. But anyway, I just want you to understand that we're hoping to be and trying to be a team with you. We really are trying to work with our communities and meet the best needs of you, but also understand that we have far more background of what else is going on that you may not need to know, but that we have to take into consideration that doesn't necessarily apply to what we're doing, but it's, if we're gonna do the whole district and change boundaries everywhere, this is gonna be a big process. And it's gonna be painful, and everyone's going to be not happy. And we hope that people won't bail out, because that's what we're going to choose to do. That's kind of where we're being pushed. Do it all first and then come back down. And I'm not saying that's wrong. We kind of thought about that before, but we had a lot of community pushback when we first started with a few of our ideas, and so those got pulled off for now. But they're not gone. They're all in the process of being looked at and prioritized. Thank you for putting up with my little rambling there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I will now say a few comments. The board president has to go last, so I'm going to go right now. I'm not going to repeat what a lot of people have said. I agree with most of what my fellow board members have said. I do want to point out something, that we just had a hearing at Park Lane where every Willow Canyon parent and Park Lane parent received a postcard, and there were several Willow Canyon parents that spoke there, and I just reviewed my notes. I happen to have my notes from that meeting in front of me right now, and most of those Willow Canyon parents said, please wait. They said the same thing that you Park Lane parents said, like, why do we have to rush it? That is what they said. The only thing different they said was rebuild on Willow Canyon. So I do want to tell you parents that I got the message loud and clear from the hearing that please wait and only move us when you're ready to rebuild. That is what I heard. I circled all those things. That was the message you guys sent. And I do agree with you. So I do think we should move forward with Mrs. Nyvar's motion, and that's how I feel. I'm short and to the point, you guys. That's me. So I don't know. I think, does anyone else want to say anything about that substitute motion?
I do think under Robert's rules, we have to
Yes.
resolve that.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
We're going with Katie's
Okay.
first and then go back to Holly's. Yes, I know Robert's rules. I'm running the meeting. I know them. Okay, Mrs. Nyvar?
I think this has been an arduous 10-month process, and I think it is unprudent and unwise to draw it out for another month just with the same conclusion tonight. So I would like to do the system-wide approach in long-range planning and set this proposal aside.
Okay, so do we want to move forward with that motion and take a vote? The motion is that we wait and make a decision in May. Well, she made the motion. She should define it.
We always have to do the substitute motion first, so it's
Gotta
Katie's.
do- Yeah, that motion first, then we go back to Holly's motion. So she wants you to clarify your motion.
To clarify the motion, because we are changing a motion on waiting on this, is to have a second reading on that new proposal and vote on this proposal of pausing proposal B until the May meeting.
Okay, Karen, are you clear on that?
So it's just clarifying that we're going to vote next time and not now.
Yes, that is what her motion is. Okay, any other discussion to that motion? Okay, let's do a roll call vote, because I think this is going to be a split vote, so. Yes, Mrs. Oaks?
I do think it's probably gonna be a split vote. Part of where my vote is coming from is a lesson I learned from Nancy Tingey, who to this day I think is one of the finest people I've ever worked with and one of the most amazing people to ever work in public service. Nancy said to me at the very beginning, and when I was a board member, she said, you have to be careful. Like, it's really easy to listen only to the voices that verbalize themselves are right. You have to remember all of the voices that don't say anything. And sometimes certain parents or students don't say anything because they're not aware that there's a need for them to. Does that make sense? They're not aware that something that they really care about and is in the balance of being decided upon might go a different way. And so to that point, it may very well come back that the resounding answer from those Willow Canyon parents is also, please wait. And if so, that's great. I have no problem with that. But I think out of fairness, to make sure that they have the opportunity to speak once they understand that a decision is being made for their school community as well, and it's going down a certain way differently than they might have expected, I think it stands to reason in my mind to give them that opportunity. So.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Okay. I will now call for a vote with Katie's motion. I don't have the exact language, but it just means we are not voting, yes, we are not voting on terminating proposal B right now. Basically, I just summarized it. Okay, I will start with Mrs. Nye. So I will now call for a vote. I'm going to do a roll call vote. Mrs. Nybart, yay or nay?
Nay.
Mr. Edo?
Nay.
Mrs. Schill, nay. Mrs. Oaks?
Aye.
Mrs. Dolly, Mrs. Pedersen?
Aye.
Okay, that motion fails then. So now we're back to the original motion, which is Mrs. Nybar's motion, which is to terminate at this point proposal B, correct? Do you want to restate your motion? That would be good.
Sure. Let me pull it up. My motion is to move that the board terminate the proposal to move Park Lane into Willow Canyon and to look back at long-range planning.
Okay, thank you.
I have Jackson is wondering if he can call in for a vote. No.
He cannot, you cannot. Well, is he available? Can he call in? He can't, you can't say his vote?
No, I know. He's asking, can he call quickly to cast a vote? He's on the airplane and thinks he has Wi-Fi. I don't
know. Oh, I don't know. Is Dan here?
It's here.
We need to ask our legal counsel.
I'm going to text him and say we're asking legal.
We have an electronic policy, so yeah.
We do have a policy, and I know someone else cannot do like a proxy vote for him. I know for sure that is wrong. But he would have to call from the airplane.
We're asking Dan right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can Dan, is he coming out here? Can Jackson call in right now to vote?
Yes. Okay.
I don't think he's been listening in.
Okay,
But he's aware of what's happening. He's aware of what's happening.
Yes, he said it's 3-3. I want to call in and vote if it's 3-3.
Okay. If he can call in, right?
Try calling me right now.
Yeah.
He says he is, and I think it's legal.
She presented his comments before we
Not just
even had a
reaching out to
discussion.
him to break a tie.
I didn't reach out to him.
We haven't voted yet.
And I didn't reach out to him. He reached out to me. He said, "How is it going? Is it a 3-3 tie? Can I call in to vote?"
You're saying he's been listening the whole time on the airplane?
No, that's not what I'm saying. He just checked in and asked if he can call in to vote. I think he,
Really listen to the vote. I don't think you should be making an uninformed vote.
I think it sends him in.
Yeah, because he hasn't.
he's voted against it before, though. This wouldn't be a change. I mean, he's voted against the Park Lane Willow Canyon consolidation.
Okay, let me also remind you something about Robert's rules. If we take this vote and it's 3-3 and it fails, none of us can bring it back for another vote. None of the people that vote for it, it would have to be, well, it would have to be on the losing side. So one of these guys would have to bring it back. I'm just telling you. In another meeting. Yeah, in another meeting. Or later. Or, yeah, if it fails, it pushes it.
Can we?
Yeah, but he hasn't been listening, and you were on Zoom. I mean, you were in the meeting.
I'm not.
It's, in my mind, okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
In my mind, it sets a dangerous precedent. Because if we're allowing a board member who hasn't actually been participating in the entirety of the meeting, listening to comments, doing all of the things, and then they jump in just for certain votes, it's a dangerous precedent. Because it might benefit your position right now, but it could easily flip the other direction in the future in a way that raises an eyebrow and undermines our credibility as a board.
Okay, I have a comment, if I could speak.
Yeah, Mrs. Nywer?
One thing that I have a concern with is we've had this process for 10 months and we've had community input meetings, and I just reviewed all the emails from Willow Canyon too. It's difficult for me not to feel like this is a political play just so someone else can make the motion later, a month later. The reason why is because we've already heard from Willow Canyon, and I think by holding this vote for that community, it makes it sound like we're paying special deference to one community above the other. Everyone's been operating under the same rules. The rules are, we sent postcards, we sent all the communication, and community members showed up and they spoke and they emailed. So for us to make this community wait for a whole other 2 months, because we have teacher appreciation next month, just to give another community one more opportunity to weigh in when we've already done all of our processes, to me, that doesn't seem right. That seems like we're putting undue precedence that one community we have special deference for above another. So I'm concerned with that. I'm concerned with, I'm very concerned with the way this process is going. Jackson keeps trying to call me.
Okay, Mr. Edo?
So I want to just comment about the process specifically with voting remotely, because I've done remotes a number of times. I've done votes from different countries, and not once have I been grilled about how much was I paying attention to it. I mean, I was, right? But like, that's not part of the conversation as to how much I was listening to the board meeting, etc. We have to assume that we're elected to make decisions and that we're going to be engaged throughout the process. And I think it sets a bad precedence when we say you're not allowed to vote unless we determine that, in our subjective opinion, you've paid enough attention to it. Because should that apply to me here in person as well? I really think that that's a bad precedence. We're not full-time board members, right? We do have travel periodically. That happens. This wasn't a reach out to say, please call in and vote. This was a reach in saying, I wasn't originally planning to vote, so it's not set up, but that's within our rules, right? Same thing when I participate remotely. I don't participate usually in the entire meeting. I participate in parts of the meeting and then review other parts of the meeting.
Yes, sure.
Just as a point of clarification, I totally get where you're coming from, Andrew, and I agree, because I've had to participate on remote meetings as well. To me, the difference here is the fact that no, hold on just a second.
He needs to know that, because he's calling from
He can hear, I'm sure. He can hear.
Talk to him and say
if he's listening to the meeting, he knows that we're having this conversation. So the difference, and maybe I'm not understanding, is that he informed the board president ahead of time that he wasn't going to participate in the meeting and he has to be excused, right? So I think that that's part of the question at this point is this a change from what that original, like, attendance and acknowledgement was? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, when I've participated in remote meetings before, I've let the board president, I've let Cindy know I'm on it from the beginning, and that's what's understood. To me, it feels a little bit suspect when you're reading comments from him, and then all of a sudden we're getting notification that he wants to jump in on a tiebreaker. That feels concerning to me. So that's where I'm coming from. If he were to email the board president or to call in to the district, it feels a little bit biased in that direction, and so I'm a little concerned about that. Okay, do you want to say something?
I don't know, this is just really hard. Okay, Mrs. Dolly.
To be clear, I'm in favor of this pause, as is Mrs. Pedersen, but I think it's important because this information, that a pause was not in any of the information that went out. So if they're not at the meeting tonight, they have no ability to comment on that before a vote happens. And so we're allowing the process to happen so people have the opportunity to provide their voice before we have a final vote to make sure we're getting all the information that is important.
And we need a clarification on the policy, I think.
I know, could we, Dan, could we look at our policy on electronic voting, on electronic meeting attendance, et cetera?
Your motion.
Okay, we are looking up the policy, everyone, so sit tight. So board, should we just take like a 5-minute saunter? That's what the legislature calls it when you walk around a minute. But none of us discuss what we're discussing right now. Yes, we're gonna do a 5-minute saunter. And no one discuss what we've just been discussing. Okay, board, we're ready to resume right now, our meeting. So I've asked Dan Harper, our legal counsel, to come and read us the policy and his interpretation of the policy.
All right, thank you, board. The relevant policy is policy 100.01, board governance, in the section 100.01-1, meetings of the Board of Education. In subsection 6, electronic meetings, it provides a board member's presence at a meeting by electronic means, voice and or video, shall be announced at the meeting and noted in the minutes. A remote board member attending by voice and or video is included in calculating a quorum. So what this implies is this is from the beginning to even establish if a quorum is there. And we've always done that when we've had board members who aren't able to participate here directly. They have made that known in advance that they would be participating remotely, and we have included them in that quorum. And I think that is the precedent. Mr. Jackson didn't think he was going to be able to because his flight was during this board meeting. We didn't announce him. We didn't feel like he was part of the quorum, and I think the rules intend, without explicitly indicating that you need to let the board know in advance so you can participate, be part of that, and that was not the case tonight. So it would be my legal opinion that I would recommend that you do not count Mr. Jackson, since he didn't ask to be involved in this, to participate tonight, and I think that's the way you should always approach these matters, that if somebody's going to be involved, they should let you know in advance so we can include them and also take the means that they can be a part and listen to and make that vote. So
Okay.
that's the guidance I would provide.
Thank you, Mr. Harper. We appreciate that. So I did text Jackson this morning. He told me he was not going to be able to participate. I did announce that at the beginning of our meeting tonight to excuse him. So I think we have to move forward with just the 6 of us. So knowing that, do you want to move forward with your motion or withdraw your motion?
Well, I have a question. As I'm considering making a substitute motion to my initial motion now that we have all this clarity. My question is, in April with the Teacher of the Year, we have a study session. Would it be possible, could we add a small business section just to do this again, because Jackson would be here? We don't have enough time. Well,
Yeah, we don't have time.
we don't have time.
We really don't have time because we
Yeah.
have to start at 7.
Okay.
and-
My only concern is, my only concern is making everyone wait till May, the extra 2 months, but we don't have time. Right. Okay, so I guess
It's April 1st, and our
That
meeting
is
is
true.
May 6th.
that is
so
true.
It's 1 month.
That is true. Okay, I make a substitute motion.
Okay, well, withdraw your other motion.
I'll withdraw my other motion since it will be tied and fail, to be clear. And I will make a substitute motion that in our first meeting in May, what's the date of that?
I think it's May 6th. Let me double check. I don't want to say the wrong date. May 5th. I was wrong.
May 5th. Oh, Cinco de Mayo. Perfect. Okay. So I make a motion that on May 5th, we have a public announcement for this to be the 3rd reading, and I will suspend my motion until May 5th to terminate the proposal.
Okay, I don't think you need a motion for that, but does anyone want to second that? No.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'll just withdraw my motion then, and
'Cause right now
I'll make
we
it again.
plan to vote on May 5th.
Okay, we'll vote on May 5th with Jackson here. Sounds great.
Okay, thank you. That was the most exciting board meeting ever, you guys. Just realize you were here for that. Okay, well, I think that is the end of new business, and we will now have staff comments. And we'll start with Assistant Superintendent, future Superintendent, Dr. McKay Robinson.
I'm just thrilled to be up here during such an exciting evening. So, no, but in all seriousness, thank you so much to the community for coming out and expressing your voice, and also sharing the many emails. They truly are appreciated and help guide and direct some decisions that are needing to be made, and so it's appreciated. And we love seeing the joy that comes from your children as they engage and participate in these amazing and wonderful schools. That's where my heartstrings really get pulled, and so we're just grateful for your commitment to that. Just a couple really quick things and little shout outs, if you will. I had the pleasure of, over the last couple weeks since we last met, to visit and be a part of some really great events throughout the school, the different schools. Starting at Eastmont Middle School, where they had their Avid showcase. And the best part of that was listening to the students afterwards talk about how exceptional their teachers were and how they are pushed and driven to do things that they never thought that they would ever be able to do. And it was just so cool to hear from those students. Also spent some time at the middle school basketball tournament that Mr. Haney talked about earlier. That was a lot of fun to hand out those medals and the trophies. If you just saw the trophies, you'd be impressed with how cool they were. They looked like the Incredible Hulk. It was really bizarre. Also went to Alta High School for a PTSA sponsored event. It was called, they had some guests here from Stand for Kind, and it was a really cool event, trying to help the students that were in attendance learn how to be safe and smart online and on using social media. And there were a lot of students that were on this panel, and it was just an overall great experience. Granite Elementary attended their School of Rock performance, which was amazing, especially with the incorporation or the inclusion of their EEC students. That was truly impressive to watch those students engage and be a part of that event as well. Our gala, have to give a huge shout out to Denise in External Relations, and our guest speaker that was a former graduate of Corner Canyon High School that now works for NASA. It was a really neat and impressive evening. And Lone Peak's art show last night, I ran into a couple of our board members there as well. Another great thing. And then Leon and I had a great opportunity of visiting, I think, 6 or 7 different schools last week, which was fantastic. And then my Oakdale friends, that was another great opportunity, being a part of their student recognitions for attendance and citizenship. And then they created during their art class these superhero cards. They kind of look like little baseball cards, and they were of their teachers. And they were out during recess and lunch and stuff, sharing these trading cards, talking about their teachers having superpowers and superpowers in general. But really cool to see, and that just gave me that that desire to once again just express my appreciation to our amazing teachers throughout the district that bring such impactful education to our students, and that is obviously evident here as well with our Park Lane community and all others that have reached out. So just grateful for the opportunity and just proud to be part of Canyons.
Okay, thank you. We'll now have the Business Administrator report. Mr. Wilcox.
Yes, thank you. A couple things. I just want to thank our legislature. I know they've been out of session a month, but we haven't had a meeting since then, especially for giving us additional the state $25 million in at-risk funding. That's big. It's about almost 1.3 to Canyon, so appreciate that. I want to acknowledge Doug Hallenbeck, who has been our CTEC principal for several years. He will be retiring at the end of this year, just announced that. We'll miss Doug immensely. When he started, our programs were good, but he's taken them up to another level where many of them have wait lists, and appreciate all his work and as we've gotten with the planning on the Innovation Center. And finally, I just want to acknowledge Dr. Robbins, retiring. Rick's meant so much to me. I've been around many leaders in my 30-plus years of working, but I've never had a leader that cared as much as Rick did about people, and that was his great trademark to me, that he showed me, just the way he cared about our teachers, our staff, our ESPs, our students, our parents, everyone, and he just bore a big brunt with that, and I just so admirable with that. I certainly wish him the best. He's been a great boss, but even a far better friend to me, and I just want to appreciate and hope he knows how much I've really appreciated and enjoyed working with him the last 6 years. So we'll be talking more about Rick as we go by, but I just want to make that on the note. And welcome to Dr. Robinson with us. Robbins to Robinson to with us now. I've known McKay since day one when the district was created, so he's going to be a great leader for us. I've spoken to many staff members, and they are all ecstatic about the board choosing him and excited for the vision and leadership he's going to bring and then for the upcoming years. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. We will start with our board comments and Mrs. Nybar. Oh, wait, board. Let's remember, we're supposed to keep these to 3 minutes. And someone suggested we should have a timer. I would be okay with that. Really? You guys are okay with that? Nice. Okay, 3-minute timer going forward. Yeah. Okay. I like it. I love it, actually. And you can always take less time. Remember that. 30 minutes. Okay. I don't know how long. Is Justin working on it? Okay, here we go. Oh, great. Okay. Okay, Mrs. Nybar, go.
First, I'd like to give a congratulations to Cami Alley of Draper Park Middle School being Teacher of the Year. I'm so excited. Also for the unveiling of the other Teachers of the Year in the district I represent. I also attended the Canyons Foundation Education Banquet. That was an amazing night. TJ Nyman was a class act. He began his speech and he was a little boy at Disneyland trying to pull out the sword and the stone, and he had Merlin the magician there, and he talked about how Merlin was his mentor and gave him encouragement. Then he showed the slide where he pulled the sword out of the stone, and then he did this whole metaphor about how his school experiences here in Canyons did that for him, how he never imagined as a little boy that he'd be working at NASA. And he talked about our amazing C-Tech program, talked about the different competitions he was part of, and he had slides and pictures of all of his schools here, Willow Springs, Draper Park, and Corner Canyon. The most significant part of the night for me was when a slide was put up and he had a personal thank you and every teacher on the screen that has taught him and said, "Thank you. I am where I am because of you." What a class act. It was such a fantastic keynote speaker. Congratulations to our scholarship winners. Those personal stories of our students were so compelling. You couldn't listen to that and keep a dry eye. We had a refugee from Africa and heard a little bit about his story, a student who battled cancer, just amazing stories of resilience and how they've risen. And I know that that's possible because of our support staff, for teachers, guidance counselors, and everyone that reaches out and supports them. I'm so grateful to be part of this district. There is no one that is more invested in our children than the teachers and the staff and the administrators. And I'm just so grateful that I get to rub shoulders with everyone here. Canyons is the place to be. And although we are facing new challenges, I know that we can meet them and we can continue to grow and be strong. That's it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Edel.
So I feel really fortunate that my kids tell me various things that they're learning in our schools because it's fantastic. We have the most amazing teachers anywhere. And I feel that how amazing our schools are is represented by the people who are here in this room because they have fantastic schools and fantastic teachers. And so I hope that all of our educators out there know how much we truly appreciate them. And I mean, the kids are picking up so much, even if you think maybe they're not at various times, or maybe sometimes the lessons come hard, especially when the lessons might be interacting with groups or applying some critical thinking. So I really appreciate the stories that my children bring back because that, you know, just it literally brings it home the work that's happening across the district and for all of our students. So thank you to all of our educators and then everyone who helps support our students. There's so many out there. I'm looking forward in the coming weeks to spend a little bit more time in school. I was away for a minute and I'm back now, and so I'm looking forward to that, as well as some continuing education on my behalf as a board member at the National School Boards Association conference coming up here in a couple weeks. So, and then for everyone who stayed here in the room, I appreciate your engagement and that you've made it with us for the whole meeting. So that's awesome.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Oakes.
Okay, so I want to also give a shout out to Lone Peak. Their art night is always a highlight for me every year, and this year did not disappoint. It was phenomenal. I'm a huge fan of arts integration, and some of the Brain Boosters teachers that they have over there, those kids are incredibly lucky. I want to echo what Mr. Wilcox said about Dr. Robbins. We all miss him. He is in large measure a reason why we have a strategic plan, why we have a portrait of a Canyon scholar, why the Innovation Center, we reached out and really tried to find something that's going to propel our kids into the next, all of the careers that are coming, and that they're going to be prepared for what's coming down the hatch pipe, especially with the businesses that will be filling the point. I also did not have the opportunity, because I was out of town with my husband, but to be here the night that Dr. Robinson was officially approved as the next superintendent. And I just want to take a minute and express my thoughts about that. I don't know. Dr. Robinson is really good at being very, very humble and quiet behind the scenes. But what you don't know is he is the most incredible Energizer bunny. He is incredibly detail-oriented. He understands this organization from the ground up, like on a cellular level. He's not only been a teacher and administrator, district administrator, he's seen every level. He's taken the time to understand people in every department and really listen to their concerns. And I don't think we could have ever found somebody that was more capable of taking this job. I am incredibly grateful for his integrity. I mentioned this to my board members, but in a time when what we're seeing currently on the national level and internationally is so disappointing for many of us as Americans, I feel incredibly grateful that we have someone at our helm that has the kind of authentic honesty that he does. I trust him. And that is saying a lot. He's extraordinarily fair, and he's extraordinarily honest, and it doesn't matter who you are or what your perspective is. I also, when I think of Dr. Robinson, the words passionate and compassionate come to mind. He's passionate about education, and he's extraordinarily compassionate about the individual, and particularly the student. Everything he does is with the student in mind. A lot of people, when we announced that you would be the next superintendent, commented online and in other places, you guys are so smart, that was so smart, but honestly, we aren't that smart. It's actually a no-brainer. And we feel really lucky to have you on board. So welcome in this new position, but we're so grateful.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Dolly.
Thank you. I just want to take a minute to thank our PTA volunteers. I know this last month has been a big focus on Reading Month. There's been a lot of reading incentive programs out there in stores and lots of things going on, and that doesn't happen without our PTA volunteers that help to put on a lot of these programs in our school, not to mention spirit nights and other fun activities. So thank you to our PTA for all that they do to make our schools great communities and places to be. Also, we have our district book blitz competition tomorrow morning. And so again, volunteers that have been running book blitz teams across our schools, we appreciate that, encouraging and getting kids excited about reading. We wish them luck for those who will be competing tomorrow at the book blitz competition. And then lastly, I just want to thank our Canyons Foundation members. These are business people that serve on our foundation board, and their whole goal, I get to meet with them every month, is to provide supports for Canyon School District. They're put incredible amount of effort into the gala, which is a huge fundraising source for the foundation. They have a golf tournament in the fall, but throughout the year, they're always working to raise money for our schools, raise money for our teachers. They support a lot of the Teacher of the Year award baskets, and also donating a lot of supplies. They're bringing in food and coats and shoes for our students, and we couldn't do all that we do here at our district if it wasn't for the support for our foundation members and the local businesses, so thank you to them.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Pedersen.
Some of you stole the same ideas. I'd like to begin by saying how much I appreciate that our district allows our board members to be part of all of our district committees. In most districts, the schools run, the district people run independently. Each one of us serves on a couple of committees, and we're able to hear what's happening, all the good work, and to help direct supporting our student goals. And I really appreciate, I personally have really benefited from being in the committees that I have been in, and I can see the hard work that our district leaders are doing. I also attended the CSD Foundation Gala, super fun. It was very enjoyable. I was very impressed by each of the schools nominated a student to honor, as Holly mentioned, and their stories were just so touching. And the challenges that they were able to overcome was just kind of heartbreaking in a way, but it's exciting to know that our district has been able to put into place systems that can help those students to succeed, no matter what their beginning was. I wanted to do a little shout out. I'm really impressed with, this has happened for years, but Taylor Hansen at Eastmont, he's assistant vice principal, has spent countless hours for years providing not only help in his own school in Eastmont, but to be the coordinator for the middle school tournaments is amazing. Without him, they wouldn't be happening. And I just so appreciate him and the extra work that he puts into supporting our students and how much he cares about them. And I'd like to give him that shout out because it's noticed, we see it. It was fun to see that one of our our high school advisory council members was able to, I'm not surprised, Mary Ann Jensen was able to get first place in original oratory. If you've ever listened to her speak when we're in our committee meeting, she's very well versed and able to express herself well. So shout out to Mary Ann, congratulations. And I'm most looking forward to being able to celebrate the representation for each school of the Teacher of the Year. We wish we could celebrate every single teacher, but it will be exciting to see as each of them are starting to be announced, all the accomplishments that they've been able to do for our students and what they're able to add to our collective as a district. And that's pretty much it, but thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm just going to make my comments short because I like that. And I want to lead by example, board. I just want to say the one thing I've learned through this whole boundary study is that parents are so passionate and love their schools. And I do really appreciate that. And I appreciate all the parents who've sent us emails, who've come and spoken to us and also been at the hearings. And I mean, we really are on your side. We don't want to be your enemies. We want to be on your side. So anyway, thank you. And I will now declare this meeting over. Thank you.